Chapter 30. That night, Qin Yu was sitting cross-legged in his room. Every night, Qin Yu would use the ancestral dragon arts to transform the spiritual energy of heaven and earth into internal energy. Then, he would let it disperse, and at the same time, let his muscles begin to absorb this internal energy. Tonight, Qin Yu also used the ancestral dragon arts. He saw that streams of spiritual energy of heaven and earth were rapidly revolving around Qin Yu's body. The amount was frightening, and because there was so much of it, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth actually formed a blue mist. It was as if a layer of hazy blue mist had enveloped Qin Yu's entire body, and Qin Yu's figure appeared hazy within the blue mist. Spiritual energy materialization. The legendary spiritual energy materialization. If this scene was seen by any internal expert or Xiantian expert, they would be stunned. The speed at which one absorbed spiritual energy naturally represented the speed at which one's cultivation progressed. When one reached the spiritual energy materialization level, one's cultivation speed would reach a terrifying level. According to legends, the speed at which immortals absorbed spiritual energy had reached the spiritual energy materialization level, and even Xiantian experts were unable to reach this level. But now, it was happening to a mere 16-year-old youth who practiced external techniques. At this moment, Qin Yu's face was completely red, and his body was slightly trembling, as if he had received a great shock. Beads of sweat even appeared on his forehead, and the expression on his face was both painful and shocked. But the surging spiritual energy was still unceasingly entering Qin Yu's body. How can this be? So much spiritual energy. Qin Yu was unable to express the shock in his heart. When he used the ancestral dragon arts, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth was actually very obedient and quickly absorbed by him. But the spiritual energy of heaven and earth was really too obedient and too easy to control, so Qin Yu actually absorbed more than 10 times the usual amount of spiritual energy. Could it be because of that Lu Xing's tears again? Qin Yu naturally thought of this, but then he smiled bitterly. Heavens, you're killing me. At this moment, the surging heaven and earthling qi within Qin Yu's body surged into Qin Yu's meridians. It was like a pedestrian walkway that normally only allowed 3 people to walk side by side. But at this moment, it allowed 10 people to walk side by side. Moreover, the Ling Qi was unceasingly flowing in. One could imagine how crowded it was. Qin Yu's meridians were now extremely congested. The spiritual qi of heaven and earth had completely blocked his meridians. It's not a good thing to absorb too much spiritual qi of heaven and earth. What should we do now? Qin Yu felt a tearing pain in his meridians. He tried his best to circulate the heaven and earth spiritual qi in his meridians, but there was too much heaven and earth spiritual qi, and it was difficult for him to control it. For example, it was easy for an instructor to control the movements of 100 people, but it was difficult for him to control the movements of 1,000 people. It hurts. Could it be that my meridians are going to shatter and I'll die? Qin Yu smiled bitterly in his heart. I originally thought that the mysterious Lu Xing's tear was a treasure, but now it seems that it is my disaster. So much spiritual qi of heaven and earth is enough to crush my meridians. Qin Yu could clearly feel that every meridian in his body was emitting waves of pain. Qin Yu's meridians had been accustomed to that amount of spiritual qi of heaven and earth. Now that it had suddenly increased 10-fold, how could his meridians withstand it? His meridians were completely full, and they were about to burst open. Qin Yu could only watch all of this happen, but there was nothing he could do. Hiss! One of his meridians finally couldn't withstand the pressure and tore open. Not good. Qin Yu's face suddenly turned pale. Hiss! In a moment, all of his meridians were torn open. Father, I originally thought that I was still of some use, that I could still help Father, but now it seems I'm still useless. Qin Yu's heart was sad, but in the face of death, Qin Yu didn't have any fear or grief. Perhaps if I die, Father will be sad for me. Qin Yu didn't know why, but he inexplicably thought of this. However, just as Qin Yu was letting his imagination run wild, the Lu Xing's tear on Qin Yu's chest once again emitted a clear stream. That clear stream immediately flowed throughout Qin Yu's body. It was unknown what kind of mysterious energy this clear stream was, but those torn meridians were actually easily reformed. And the newly formed meridians were much wider than before. Ah! Qin Yu was shocked as he stared blankly at this scene. It seemed that Lu Xing's tear wasn't as simple as Qin Yu thought. But for the spiritual qi that was 10 times, or even more than 10 times, the newly formed meridians were still too narrow. After a moment, because the circulation was too slow, the blockage became more and more serious, and the meridians were torn open again. This time, Qin Yu wasn't discouraged. He carefully looked forward to the mysterious clear stream of Lu Xing's tear. Sure enough, Lu Xing's tear didn't disappoint Qin Yu. Another clear stream spread out from Lu Xing's tear. Easily, wherever the clear stream passed, the meridians could be clearly felt recovering at a rapid speed. After a moment, the meridians were formed again, and this time, the meridians were wider than before. Tear, repair. No matter how much spiritual qi there was, the meridians would be able to completely withstand the process of tearing and repairing again and again. Qin Yu finally succeeded, but the pain of the meridians being torn open again and again was even more terrifying than the pain of cultivating external martial arts. Various streams of vigorous internal energy rush into his dantian, then spread out from his limbs and bones. Qin Yu's entire body's muscles and bones are absorbing internal energy unceasingly like dry sand. The more internal energy his muscles and bones absorb, the more formidable their transformations become. But as time passed, the inner qi his muscles and bones absorbed became less and less. 4 hours later, Qin Yu opened his eyes. Sure enough, it's just as I expected. The greater the training volume, the stronger the muscles and bones, and the more inner qi I can absorb. Yesterday, my training volume was more than 10 times the usual. Now, although I've only absorbed inner qi for 4 hours, the amount of inner qi I've absorbed is more than 10 times the usual amount. Qin Yu's face was covered in sweat. The pain from the tearing of his meridians had caused Qin Yu's entire body to be soaked in sweat. My muscles and bones have absorbed so much inner qi. Now I feel. Qin Yu's legs suddenly kicked out, creating a whistling sound. His fists also continuously punched out, piercing the air in front of him. Now I feel. My entire body is filled with power. Qin Yu's eyes shone. He was extremely excited. After a day of training, he could clearly feel the speed of his improvement. 2 years, do I need it? Qin Yu's mouth had a trace of a confident smile. How long would it take to reach the peak of the postliminary realm? It was useless to guess. He could only experience real training and use facts to speak. Time passed. Qin Yu began to train crazily. Every day, Qin Yu completely ignored the training volume. It was completely attacking the limits of a person's mental endurance. Even if a pre-celestial master came to see, he would probably be scared to death by this madman. This kind of training was simply killing. Wearing 300 gene weights, lifting a few hundred gene boulder with both hands, then running at the fastest speed for an hour. Afterwards, throwing away the boulder, wearing 300 gene weights, swimming in the lake, swimming hundreds of times, and then, this was completely beyond a person's imagination. It was simply incomprehensible. Was this something a person could endure? However, Qin Yu was alive and kicking. His muscles became tougher and more flexible day by day. His speed became faster day by day, and his eyes became sharper and sharper. Qin Yu had been wearing 300 gene weights to test his strength with one hand. The strength of one hand increased from 300 gene to 400 gene, 450 gene, 500 gene, 550 gene, 600 gene, 700 gene. But as it increased, Qin Yu's strength with one hand seemed to have no upper limit. Was the peak of the postliminary realm only about 700 or 800 gene with one hand? In short, Qin Yu's strength with one hand had exceeded this so-called peak of strength with one hand in only 1 year. His strength, speed, and even his body's ability to resist attacks were all constantly challenging the theoretical limits of external skills in the Qianlong continent. Qin Yu was still rapidly improving, and there was no sign of slowing down. Moreover, Qin Yu could not feel a trace of pre-celestial spiritual qi. This showed that Qin Yu was still a postliminary realm master. No one knew how far Qin Yu had reached the peak of the post-liminary realm. In short, the current Qin Yu could no longer be estimated by common sense. A miracle of external skills was being created by him. Chapter 31. East Hazy Mountain was more than 3,000 meters high. Such a high mountain was naturally covered in lush forests. In the depths of the forest, there were even wild beasts roaming about. At this moment, in an extremely remote forest behind East Hazy Mountain, there was a human silhouette shuttling back and forth at an extremely fast speed. It was as agile as a black panther and as nimble as an ape. It was to the extent that it could jump up more than 10 meters in an instant and reach a tree branch. Then, it easily jumped from one tree branch to another. The strangest thing was that although this human silhouette was extremely fast, it did not cause the slightest sound of wind. The human silhouette suddenly dove down from a height of more than 10 meters like lightning. With a fierce bang sound, it plunged into a small lake in the depths of the forest. The clear and beautiful lake was like a beautiful jade. Small ripples appeared on the surface of this nameless lake. It was so early in the morning that even the pebbles at the bottom of the lake could be clearly seen. So refreshing. Qin Yu suddenly emerged from the bottom of the lake and wantonly shook his head, splashing water everywhere. Qin Yu had already obtained Lu Xing's tear for a year and a half. Half a year ago, Qin Yu's strength had already reached the level of Man Dong, who was born with divine strength. His speed was also unparalleled. Ordinary swords and spears could not harm Qin Yu in the slightest. Needless to say, his flexibility and toughness were even more so. Even without wearing gloves, Qin Yu's fingers could easily crack limestone. Moreover, the skin on his fingers was not stiff in the slightest. This completely did not conform to Zhao Yunqing's theory. A person's fingers could remain nimble and also become incomparably tough. Logically speaking, Qin Yu had already reached the level of Zhao Yunqing and even surpassed him. He should have reached the so-called peak of the post-liminary realm. However, Qin Yu's various body skills were still improving at an extremely shocking speed. Qin Yu himself felt that his progress was too terrifying. He also did not want the people of the villa to spread the news, so he directly entered the depths of the forest to train. Training in the depths of the forest, huge rocks could be seen everywhere. Moreover, it was even more beneficial for the body movement training of the Big Dipper moonlight dance. After all, there were no roads in the depths of the forest. There were only various kinds of obstacles. This kind of situation was even more beneficial for the body movement training. In just 1.5 years, the strength of a single hand has reached 1,000 jin. If this news were to spread. Qin Yu had a faint smile on his face. The strength of supporting with one hand and the strength of punching out were two completely different concepts. It was much harder to support with one hand. A single hand weighed 1,000 kilograms, and a single punch was definitely over 10,000 kilograms. With such a terrifying strength, even Man Dong, who was known as the strongest in external strength, would be dumbfounded. For the past 6 months, I've been wearing these 300 jin weights almost all the time. I wonder how fast I'll be without these weights. Qin Yu thought to himself. If others were to hear this, they would definitely not believe it. Qin Yu had been shuttling through the forest at an extremely fast speed. His speed was so fast that ordinary external experts could not compare to him. However, this was when Qin Yu was wearing 300 pounds of weights. Bang! With a few sounds, Qin Yu's dark steel arm guards, dark steel leg guards, and black gold vest had been taken off to the side. Ha ha, feel it. Qin Yu suddenly shot up into the sky like an arrow leaving the bow. He directly shot out of the water, and then his body swayed in midair. Unexpectedly, he stopped. Yes, he stopped. Although he stopped for only about 2 or 3 seconds. This was the secret of Qin Yu's body movement that borrowed the power of the wind. Shoo! Qin Yu's body shook, and his body swooped down and landed on the ground at an extremely fast speed. Bang! With a tap of his foot, Qin Yu's entire body disappeared with a schwa sound. Then, the surrounding trees shook, and a vague sound shuttled through the forest like lightning. He landed. Qin Yu suddenly appeared beside the lake. His face was filled with excitement. After removing the 300 gene weights, my speed has increased by more than a level. It's really too fast, but... Qin Yu frowned. It's just that with such a fast speed, the wind resistance is really too terrifying. Even though I've reached the level of the Big Dipper moonlight dance, I'm still unable to completely dissolve the wind resistance. The faster the speed, the greater the wind resistance. Just now, Qin Yu's speed reached an unprecedented level. In the past, he was easily unaffected by the wind resistance, but with such a fast speed, he was unable to perfectly dissolve the wind resistance. Looks like I'm still not strong enough. I still need to work harder. I'd like to see where my limit is. Qin Yu's eyes burn with excitement and passion. Qin Yu continues to train hard in the depths of the forest on Mount Donglan, late at night, in the Huayang Palace of the Chu Kingdom's Imperial Palace. Huayang Palace is Imperial Concubine Yu's place. Tonight, the Emperor of the Chu Kingdom, Xiangguang, has come to Imperial Concubine Yu's Huayang Palace. After going through a lot of sex, both Xiangguang and Imperial Concubine Yu have fallen into a deep sleep. The two palace maids outside the door have also fallen asleep, but they still have to make an effort to keep their eyes open. Xiangguang, who is sound asleep, suddenly starts to tremble. Beads of sweat also appear on his forehead. His entire body seems to be in a state of extreme panic and excitement. No, don't. Xiangguang keeps saying. His voice is very muffled and deep. It is simply impossible to hear clearly what he is saying. However, Xiangguang's entire body also trembles. Beside him, Imperial Concubine Yu is also woken up with a start. Your Majesty, what's wrong with you? Your Majesty? Seeing Xiangguang's very red face, Imperial Concubine Yu cannot help becoming alarmed. Go to hell. Xiangguang, whose eyes are closed, suddenly shouts loudly. He waves his arms and smashes them on Imperial Concubine Yu's body. Pang! Imperial Concubine Yu is smashed off the bed. A mouthful of blood spurts out from her mouth. She looks at Xiangguang in disbelief. She is the Emperor's favorite concubine. At this moment, Xiangguang has also woken up. He looks at Imperial Concubine Yu, who has been seriously injured by him, with an indifferent expression. Men, call an imperial physician. After saying so, Xiangguang no longer cares about Imperial Concubine Yu. He puts on his clothes and directly walks past the seriously injured Imperial Concubine Yu without even looking at her. After a while, Xiangguang appears in the Imperial study. A hook-nosed black-clad man is standing respectfully on one side. Yongli is in charge of the 3 eastern region counties, right? Xiangguang says coldly. Yes, Your Majesty. The hook-nosed man says respectfully. Xiangguang suddenly stands up. He stares at the hook-nosed man and says, gather all the information about Qin De and tell me. Also, increase the monitoring force in the 3 eastern region counties. I don't believe that he only recruited 100,000 more soldiers. We must find out what kind of trump card that Qin De actually has. Yongli has only found out this little bit after so many years. He's really useless. From now on, Zhan Su will be in charge of the intelligence work in the 3 eastern region counties. Transfer Yongli back. Yes. The hook-nosed man kneels down on one knee and says, you may go. Xiangguang waves his sleeve. The hook-nosed man bows, then disappears from the Imperial study in a flash. Xiangguang looks ahead, but he is thinking about something else in his mind. If I don't find out everything about you, Qin De, I won't be able to sleep at night or eat in peace. Xiangguang often has nightmares about being killed by Qin De. What he is most worried about is that Qin De will find out what happened in the past. He wants to destroy the Qin clan, but the Qin clan has been in charge of the 3 eastern region counties for several hundred years and is deeply rooted. It is simply not easy to destroy it. Now Xiangguang's strategy is to find out everything about Qin De. If Qin De really shows signs of rebelling, he will directly mobilize the entire country to destroy the Qin clan. If Qin De still doesn't know what happened in the past and doesn't rebel, then this matter will be dropped. That idiot Yongli is completely useless. But Zhen Su will definitely be able to find out. Qin De, you'd better not find out what happened in the past and be content with being the East vanquishing prince. If you really want to rebel, then... Xiong Guang's eyes emit a fierce cold light. Chapter 32. Beside a small lake in the depths of the forest of Donglan Mountain. It's been 10 days. Qin Yu leaned against a huge rock with a straw hanging from his mouth. He looked at the lake in front of him with a helpless expression. From the age of 8 to the age of 18, Qin Yu's body had been constantly improving for 10 years. Especially after obtaining the Katir of Lu Xing, Qin Yu's body had soared to the sky. However, Qin Yu found that his improvement had started to slow down a while ago. In the past 10 days, he hadn't improved at all. Looks like I've finally reached the peak of the post-liminary realm. Qin Yu suddenly laughed. Other people at the peak of the post-liminary realm can lift 700 or 800 jin with one hand. I'm currently wearing 300 jin weights and can lift 1,400 jin with one hand. If I take off the weights, I should be able to lift 1,500 jin. Speed. Compared to strength, Qin Yu's strength was his speed. Relying on the movement skills he had comprehended, he was able to dissolve the wind resistance. If Qin Yu moved with all his strength, his entire body would be like a shadow. Weak people wouldn't even be able to see Qin Yu's shadow. Strength, speed, agility, body toughness. Qin Yu had reached an inhuman level. In terms of body, even innate masters couldn't compare to him. Of course, if some innate masters used their innate qi, it would be difficult for Qin Yu to defeat them. Those who possessed innate qi were innate masters. No matter what, they were innate masters. Innate and post-liminary were fundamentally different. After breaking through the peak of the post-liminary realm, I should be in the innate realm. But what I practice is external martial arts. If I want to reach the innate realm through external martial arts, what should I do? Qin Yu muttered. He couldn't think of any solution at the moment. After all, no one had ever trained their body to the innate realm. Suddenly, a high-pitched eagle cry sounded. Then, a sharp gust of wind whistled in Qin Yu's direction. A huge black eagle descended from the sky and appeared beside Qin Yu. Xiaohei, you're here. You've been gone for 3 whole days. I thought you had forgotten about me. Qin Yu touched the black eagle's crown and said intimately. Only Qin Yu could touch the black eagle's crown. No one else could touch it. The black eagle was even bigger than it was 2 years ago. It was 2 meters high when standing. Once it spread its wings, Qin Yu could turn over even if he was lying down on the eagle's back. The golden crown of the past now had a tinge of red in its golden center, as if it was a flame. The black eagle looked at Qin Yu aggrievedly and even flapped its wings anxiously. Qin Yu smiled when he saw this. For so many years, Qin Yu and Black Eagle had been together. Qin Yu could completely understand Black Eagle's meaning with one look. Okay, you didn't forget me. I misunderstood you, okay? Qin Yu said with a smile. Black Eagle nodded its head. Qin Yu couldn't help but smile. Xiaohei, come, I haven't fought with you for a long time. Let's have a match. Qin Yu says, but his body charges at the Black Eagle in the blink of an eye. He reaches out his hand and forms a claw to grab the Black Eagle fiercely. Black Eagle shook its head and seemed to be very happy. It flapped its wings and easily blocked Qin Yu's move. When Qin Yu's eagle claw art touches the Black Eagle's wings, it unexpectedly produces a sound of metal colliding. Qin Yu's finger force is even stronger than that of the Eagle Claw Kings, but such a finger force cannot injure the Black Eagle. This black feather of yours is comparable to black iron. Qin Yu took a step back. Seeing that his powerful finger strength only left a mark on the outermost feathers, he couldn't help but feel helpless. The Black Eagle's feathers were black and shiny, and they were extremely sharp. There was a thick layer of feathers on its wings, but Qin Yu's finger strength couldn't even scratch a single feather. One could imagine how terrifying Black Eagle's defense was. Black Eagle proudly shook its head and flapped its wings. Don't be complacent. Seems like I can only use the old trick. Qin Yu quickly took off his black iron arm guards, black iron leg guards, and black gold vest. His whole body suddenly felt as light as a feather. Black Eagle's defense was ridiculously strong. Its attack power is even more frightening. Those eagle claws can even break black iron easily. They are definitely comparable to Xian-grade divine weapons. Qin Yu's physical body has difficulty defending against black iron weapons, not to mention the Black Eagle's claws. Haha, wait for me to beat you. Qin Yu's whole body flashed rapidly. Right, he only had one way, to use speed. Black Eagle's speed in the sky was fast, and its speed on land was also not bad. However, compared to Qin Yu's abnormal speed, it was a little lacking. Qin Yu also needed to take off all the weights to be able to suppress Black Eagle in speed. Show. With a tap of his foot, Qin Yu's whole body turned into an afterimage. As soon as his foot touched the surrounding trees or rocks, Qin Yu quickly changed direction. His speed was extremely fast, as if he was attacking Black Eagle from all directions in an instant. Black Eagle flapped its wings and moved quickly. With a flap of its wings, it could change direction. It was also very easy. Black Eagle's body was completely designed for speed. The wind resistance was completely reduced to the minimum. One man and one eagle attacked each other at an extremely fast speed. Eat my diamond finger. Qin Yu's index finger was like a sharp arrow, piercing through the air and hitting Black Eagle's chest. The strongest finger strength only broke a feather, but Black Eagle's chest was covered with a thick layer of feathers. Black Eagle seemed to be very angry. Its speed actually increased again. In an instant, only afterimages could be seen. Wow, it's flipping out. Qin Yu shouted. His speed had also reached the limit. Relying on the Big Dipper moonlight dance, Qin Yu was like a dancer under the moonlight. He easily moved around Black Eagle's body at an extremely fast speed. His hands were also constantly attacking. Even though the Black Eagle is fast, every time it attacks, it has been detected by Qin Yu very early on. The foundation of Qin Yu's body maneuvering skill is to sense the wind, so as soon as the Black Eagle attacks, the wind naturally moves and Qin Yu can detect it. Suddenly, a high-pitched eagle cry sounded. Black Eagle was finally angry. The Black Eagle flaps its wings extremely fast and frantically. In an instant, it is as if a typhoon has arisen in the surroundings. The trees in the surroundings are all bent down by the wind. Gotcha sounds are heard. Some branches break off one after another. The terrifying wind speed naturally affects Qin Yu's movements. Qin Yu smiled. You only have this move. Qin Yu's figure rushed towards the north at an extremely fast speed. The man and Black Eagle often fought. They were very familiar with each other. They were very clear about each other's moves. Upon encountering Black Eagle's move, Qin Yu rushed towards a certain place. Stone Forest. Stone Forest, as the name implied, was a place filled with huge rocks. However, Qin Yu and Black Eagle had fought several times in that place. Most of the smaller rocks had already been blown away or destroyed. All that was left were huge rocks that weighed several thousand or tens of thousands of jin. In the stone forest, Qin Yu easily passed through the stone forest. Black Eagle was also chasing after him like a black bolt of lightning. In terms of movement speed, Black Eagle was actually not much slower than Qin Yu. However, it was far from being as agile as Qin Yu. Qin Yu could easily change directions while moving. Originally, he was moving towards the east at an extremely fast speed. He could instantly change directions to the west. Pang! 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 Qin Yu's hands sometimes formed palm blades, sometimes formed iron fists, and sometimes attacked with his fingers. Black Eagle relied on its beak and wings to attack. Its pair of sharp claws did not attack. After all, its claws could only attack Qin Yu when it was flying. Once it flew, Qin Yu could only passively take a beating. After all, Qin Yu could not fly. That would be meaningless. Pang! Black Eagle flapped its wings. Qin Yu dodged, and that wing smashed into a huge rock at the side. Black Eagle's wings were extremely hard. It forcefully shattered that huge rock. Qin Yu suddenly slapped his palm towards Black Eagle's neck. Black Eagle flapped its wings and dodged. Qin Yu's heavy palm suddenly slapped the huge rock. Of course, that huge rock is smashed into smithereens by Qin Yu's palm strike. His palm strike is much more formidable than that of the Iron Sand Palm Expert, one of the 8 great external experts of the past, both in terms of strength and toughness. With one man and one eagle fighting like this, the entire stone forest was unlucky. Wherever they passed, huge rocks exploded and shattered. Ha! Qin Yu shouted loudly. He suddenly soared into the sky and slapped down at Black Eagle. At this moment, Black Eagle's back was against a huge rock. There was no way for it to escape. But the Black Eagle easily flaps its wings and moves sideways several meters in the air. Qin Yu's heavy palm then hits the huge rock on the eagle's back. Boom! The huge rock shattered, but Qin Yu did not move. Xiao Hei, stop first. As soon as Qin Yu's palm hits the rock, he feels something is wrong because he feels a strong recoil from this rock. Even though there is a recoil when he smashes other rocks, it is only average. However, the recoil from this rock is really too great. His palm even feels numb. Black Eagle heard Qin Yu's voice and came over to take a look. What is this? Qin Yu looked at the fiery red rock in front of him in shock. No, it shouldn't be called a rock. It should be called a crystal. Can a rock that can emit a fiery red light still be called a rock? Who would have thought that there would be a fiery red crystal inside after smashing the huge rock? This crystal was also very big. It was almost half the height of Qin Yu. It was an almost perfect cylinder. To be precise, it was a stick. However, this stick was much thicker and shorter than ordinary sticks. It was as thick as a thigh. Qin Yu held the crystal with both hands and felt a burst of warmth. Oh, it's so heavy. Qin Yu discovers to his surprise that this crystal is extraordinarily heavy. He immediately exerts force with both hands and, with a sudden low shout, lifts up this flaming red crystal. Qin Yu's eyes pop out of his head at once. Good heavens, a small cylinder unexpectedly weighs nearly 2,000 jin. Chapter 33. What the hell is this thing? Qin Yu frowned and carefully looked at each part of the fiery red crystal between his hands. This crystal is surprisingly heavy, it can even emit a fiery red light, and the crystal itself is still warm. Qin Yu had seen a lot of treasures in the treasury of the prince's mansion and read a lot of books in the Misty Villa, so he knew about some of the treasures in the hidden dragon continent. However, for this fiery red crystal, Qin Yu didn't have the slightest idea about it. Qin Yu put down the fiery red crystal, and with a bang, it fell to the ground. Its weight was really shocking. Let's test its hardness first. This crystal is so heavy, and when I hit it with my palm, the boulder was shattered, but this crystal didn't break, it should be very hard. Qin Yu stretched out his hand like a claw, used the eagle claw technique, and suddenly grabbed the fiery red crystal. The sound of metal colliding echoed, but the fiery red crystal didn't even leave a mark. Hiss! Qin Yu sucked in a mouthful of cold air. He felt his 5 fingers were numb. His full-strength claw couldn't even leave a mark. One could imagine the hardness of this crystal. Qin Yu frowned and thought for a moment, then suddenly turned his head and said, Xiao Hei, you try and see how hard this crystal is. Xiao Hei excitedly shook his head twice, flapped his wings, and soared into the sky, then swooped down. His pair of sharp claws fiercely grabbed the crystal. The sound of metal colliding echoed again, but the crystal didn't even leave a mark. Xiao Hei landed, blinked his eyes and looked at Qin Yu. He seemed very disheartened, as if he felt aggrieved for the failure of his claws. Qin Yu was dumbstruck, and after a while, his eyes lit up with excitement. Haha, I made a profit, I made a profit. Xiao Hei's eagle claws can easily tear black iron like paper. Its hardness is comparable to immortal-grade weapons. Even his eagle claws can't tear it. This crystal is at least a precious refining material. And try again with the Yuchong sword. Show. Qin Yu waved his hand, and a black light flashed. Then, it struck the fiery red crystal. Qin Yu held the Yuchong sword in his hand and looked excitedly at the fiery red crystal in front of him. Such a huge piece of top-grade ore is definitely a priceless treasure. Who knows, I might even be able to refine a high-grade immortal weapon. Yuchong Sword, a low immortal grade weapon. The ores had to go through many complicated processes before they were finally refined into weapons. Weapons were much harder than the original ores. For example, the meteorite that was used to forge the fish intestine sword would definitely not be able to withstand the fish intestine sword slash. Even the Yuchong sword could not leave a single mark on this fiery red crystal. Its hardness had definitely reached an astonishing level. Even a middle-stage immortal grade ore would probably leave a mark on the Yuchong sword. What about this fiery red crystal? High-grade immortal grade ores, maybe, even higher. Qin Yu's eyes lit up. A cultivator's pursuit of a top-notch weapon was not something an ordinary person could imagine. Qin Yu naturally dreamed of obtaining an absolutely divine weapon. Just the crystal itself was already much harder than the Yuchong sword. If it was refined into a weapon, then… Xiaohei, let's return to the villa. Qin Yu took off his coat and covered the fiery red crystal. Then, he carried it up. Qin Yu also knew that he could not let everyone know about such a treasure. Although he did not mind, Qin Yu knew the rules of the prince's mansion. Even a weapon like the Yuchong sword had to be kept a secret, let alone the even more precious fiery red crystal. Carrying the 2000 gene crystal, Qin Yu immediately rushed towards the misty villa. Perhaps only someone as abnormal as him could move this crystal. In the misty villa, Qin Yu walked out of the underground secret room with ease. Carrying 2000 gene back from the depths of the mountain forest is really a bit tiring. Qin Yu moved his arms, but there was a smile on his face. Having obtained such a treasure, Qin Yu was naturally in a very good mood. If father knew about this, he would definitely be very happy. Qin Yu smilingly walked towards Lian Yan's residence. Suddenly, two people came from the dark side. One was a youth who was slightly taller than Qin Yu. The other was a delicate girl dressed in green. The youth was very strong. The girl in green had delicate facial features. The most attractive thing about her was her delicate temperament. Brother Yu. Seeing Qin Yu, the girl in green's eyes immediately brightened. She quickly ran towards him. Brother Yu, this time you went out to train for almost a few days. Why didn't you come to see me? The girl mumbled. Xiao Lu, when I'm free, I'll definitely spend more time with you. Qin Yu lovingly stroked Xiao Lu's head. This girl in green was none other than Xiao Lu. The youth beside her was Tai Shan. The two siblings had taken Lian Yan as their master. Xiao Lu disliked fighting and killing. She only practiced internal energy and usually played the flute. The jade flute on her waist was given to her by Qin Yu. You always say you're free but you're never free. Brother Yu, can't you take a rest? Xiao Lu was a bit dissatisfied. Her brother Yu often said he would spend time with her when he was free. However, when did her brother Yu become free? Rest. Qin Yu was slightly startled. From the age of 8 to the age of 18, Qin Yu's real rest time could be counted on one hand. In his mind, he had always been working hard to train so that he could help his father as soon as possible and become his father's right-hand man. Xiao Lu, don't mess around. Tai Shan rebuked. Then he looked at Qin Yu and said smilingly, Xiao Yu, you're going to find teacher, right? He's taking a rest in the courtyard. All right, I'm going to find Grandpa Lian first. Qin Yu said goodbye then walked towards Lian Yan's residence. Xiao Lu however frowned and looked at Qin Yu's back. She slightly wrinkled her nose. Brother Yu is always so busy. I don't know when he'll be able to rest. Xiao Lu had been in Misty Villa for almost 5 years, so naturally she knew how hard Qin Yu practiced. Xiao Lu, don't say that. Xiao Yu is different from us. Even though he's East Vanquishing Prince's third son, what he practices is the hardest external technique. I remember when I first came here, I saw him shovel iron sand with his hands. Tai Shan seemed to be recalling the scene he had seen. Shoveling iron sand was something Qin Yu started to practice when his finger strength reached an extremely high level. If he had used iron sand at the beginning, his fingers would definitely have been done for. Tai Shan's eyes were full of amazement. Shoveling iron sand, the fingers hurt like being pricked by needles. The 10 fingers are connected to the heart. The pain is basically not something you can imagine. However, during daily training, finger strength training is only one kind of extreme training. From early morning to sunset, every training he does is aimed at breaking the limits of the human body. His body has always been tortured by extreme challenges. And this kind of training, he started when he was 8 years old. Looking at Qin Yu's back, Tai Shan felt nothing but admiration. Xiao Lu looked at Qin Yu's back, her eyes flashing with various colorful lights. In her mind, Brother Yu was always cheerful and very kind to people, like the sun, making people feel warm. But this Brother Yu, the son of East Vanquishing Prince, started to experience extreme physical torture when he was 8 years old. Even though he had Lu Xing's tears, to bring into play the effect of Lu Xing's tears, Qin Yu had to train until he reached his physiological limit. He trained his fingers until they were about to break. He trained his legs until his muscles cramped and his head swelled. Only when he reached his physiological limit would Lu Xing's tears have a miraculous effect. If you want to get something, you have to pay. To reach his current level, Qin Yu had also paid a lot. In Lian Yan's courtyard, Lian Yan was lying on a deck chair, drinking tea and enjoying the tranquility. Grandpa Lian. As soon as Lian Yan heard that familiar voice, he smiled so much that his eyes narrowed. He turned his head and looked at Qin Yu, saying with a smile, "Xiao Yu, this is very rare. It's still daytime and you've already come back from training." Seeing Qin Yu, Lian Yan could not restrain his happiness. It was just like how a grandfather could not help being happy when he saw his grandson. Qin Yu came in from the courtyard gate. With the fiery red crystal, what Qin Yu needed now was to find a weapon refining expert. Of course, to find a weapon refining expert, Qin Yu's first thought was to ask Lian Yan. Chapter 34. Grandpa Lian, I've got an extremely precious ore. According to my estimation, it should be a high Xian grade ore. Qin Yu's first sentence causes Lian Yan to stand up abruptly. Lian Yan's eyes are filled with astonishment. He looks at Qin Yu in disbelief. After a long time, he says, "Xiao Yu, you can't joke about this. A high Xian grade ore is something Xiantian experts yearn for even in their dreams. The weapons made from it will definitely be godly weapons. How could this kind of top-class ore be obtained so easily?" For the people of the Qianlong continent, weapons are simply divided into ordinary grade and Xian grade. Xian grade weapons are divided into 3 levels: high, medium, and low. It's the same with ores. Even East Vanquishing Prince, who is so powerful, has collected several tens of weapons in his weapon storing warehouse. Most of them are low Xian grade and some are middle Xian grade. As for high Xian grade, there are only 2. Grandpa Lian, why would I lie to you? I tested it by chopping it with the Yuchong sword and didn't even leave a mark. If it's not high Xian grade, then what is it? Qin Yu explains at once. Chopping it with the Yuchong sword didn't even leave a mark? Lian Yan understands that if even the Yuchong sword can't leave a mark, it's definitely a high Xian grade ore. Xiao Yu, what does this ore look like? How big is it? Is it as big as a fist? The more precious an ore is, the smaller it is. If it's as big as a fist, it's enough to be made into weapons such as short swords and knives. A fist, Qin Yu says in astonishment. The fiery red crystal he got was nearly 1 m high and as thick as a thigh. Such a fiery red crystal is much bigger than a fist. Not even as big as a fist? Then it can only be made into weapons such as daggers. But it's not bad. It's at least a high Xian grade weapon. Lian Yan says smilingly. Only now does Qin Yu understand Lian Yan's meaning. He cannot help laughing. You're wrong, Grandpa Lian. The ore I got is very big. It's cylindrical, 1 m high and as thick as a thigh. It's much bigger than a fist. Qin Yu says while gesturing with his hands. Lian Yan's eyes immediately pop out and his face starts to flush. A pillar that's 1 meter tall? Lian Yan is not Qin Yu. He thinks even more. Such a large or, moreover, it is of high Xian grade. For example, if it is used to refine war sabers, it can be refined into several tens of top Xian grade godly weapons. What kind of concept was that? Of course it's true. Do you even need to ask? Qin Yu felt helpless about Lian Yan's repeated questioning. What he didn't know was that Lian Yan couldn't believe it was true, which was why Lian Yan was acting like this. A pie falling from the sky would be hard for anyone to believe for a moment. Quick, take me there to have a look. Lian Yan immediately said to Qin Yu. Qin Yu immediately nods in agreement. He then takes Lian Yan and hurries towards the underground secret room. In the secret underground room, Lian Yan's eyes glitter as he looks at the fiery red crystal. The fiery red crystal emitted a faint red light. It was crystal clear, and one could even see the veined patterns inside the crystal. As soon as Lian Yan sees the appearance of the crystal, he knows that it must be a priceless treasure. Compared with it, even pearls and agates will lose their splendor. Lian Yan takes out a purple soft sword from his waist. With a shake of his hand, the purple soft sword immediately becomes perfectly straight. It then turns into a purple beam of light and slashes at the fiery red crystal. As expected, Lian Yan's eyes are fierce. He stares straight at the fiery red crystal in front of him. It can't even hurt my purple core soft sword. It's definitely of high Xian grade. Lian Yan turns his head around and looks at Qin Yu on one side. He says seriously, Xiao Yu, you must send such a valuable treasure to the princely mansion immediately. If you want to refine any godly weapon, you can ask the weapon refining grandmaster Mr. He to refine it for you. With so many crystals, you can refine weapons, armors and so on. You can leave the rest to your father. Is that okay? Hearing what Lian Yan said, Qin Yu immediately understands everything. The weapons refined from such precious ores will definitely be godly weapons. If these godly weapons are sent to his father, he will definitely be able to display their power in a war. Qin Yu doesn't care about money, spirit treasures and so on. It's all right. I only need 1/10 of this fiery red crystal. The rest can be given to my father. Qin Yu says smilingly. Lian Yan looks at Qin Yu with eyes full of praise. Xiao Yu, you're so young but you're not tempted by such a valuable treasure. Your mind is indeed far better than ordinary people's. If a person can face such a valuable treasure without caring about it, then his mental state must be incomparable to that of ordinary people. If a fighter wants to make a breakthrough, he must have a suitable mental state. Noticing Lian Yan's gaze, Qin Yu says, Grandpa Lian, don't look at me like that. I'll feel bad. While saying so, he pretends to be very shy. Seeing this, Lian Yan can't help bursting out laughing. A person's mind needs to be tempered. When a person goes through what Qin Yu has done, a person's mind will be tempered. Every time he breaks through a limit, it is a tempering of his mind. Qin Yu has been doing this ever since he was 8 years old. Qin Yu's mind is far more tenacious than that of ordinary people. Lonely people were usually independent and had their own way of doing things. Because a person is often lonely, he will naturally think. He will think about life and his own value. The more he thinks, the more he will see through many things. Qin Yu is also like this. Since he was little, he has often been alone, watching the stars by himself. After going through some things, Qin Yu, who is now mentally mature, completely understands how he should be a person. In life, the most important thing is family affection, the feeling that blood is thicker than love. As for money, spirit treasures and so on, they are only enough to ensure his basic life. So what if he has more? If 10,000 taels of silver is enough for his whole life, then what's the use of 100,000 taels of silver? Therefore, naturally he is not greedy. People have dreams. Qin Yu also has dreams. Family affection comes first, then dreams come second. Life. Without family affection, without dreams, life is like that of a walking corpse. When he breaks through his limit again and again, Qin Yu likes the feeling of his blood boiling after breaking through his limit. He likes close combat, the passion of deciding life and death in a split second. Qin Yu's dream was to ignite the passion of his life, to ignite it like a meteor. One's life required one's blood to boil like this. Grandpa Lien, are you still going to have this fiery red crystal delivered to the prince's mansion? Qin Yu says with a smile. Yes, I'll arrange it right away. Lien Yen says hurriedly. This is an important matter, so Lien Yen cannot relax at all. He hurriedly goes to arrange it. Qin Yu takes a look at the fiery red crystal and says to himself, I didn't expect this crystal to be so useful to father. It's also a gain. Then Qin Yu turns around and leaves the secret chamber with a smile. At the moment, in a courtyard of the East Vanquishing Prince's mansion, there are quite a few people gathered there. The three princes of the East Vanquishing Prince, Lien Yen, Manager Gu Min, three shirtless big men and a black-clad middle-aged man. Everybody is looking at the fiery red crystal in the center. Mr. He, is there any way to refine it? Lien Yen asks the black-clad middle-aged man. The black-clad middle-aged man does not answer. Instead, he is standing beside the fiery red crystal with his eyes wide open. He carefully observes every part of the fiery red crystal very attentively. Seeing this, Qin Yu and the others on the side all consciously do not disturb this weapon-refining grandmaster. Chapter 35. The black-clad middle-aged man watches for a long time. There is an extremely satisfied expression on his face. He turns his head to look at Qin Yu and praises, I thought such a valuable treasure could only be found in the extremely dangerous wilderness. It's really hard to believe that Third Prince found such a valuable treasure in the ordinary Dong Lon Mountain. It's just luck. Qin Yu says with a smile. The black-clad middle-aged man looks at Lien Yen and says, Senior Lien, since Dong Lon Mountain has such a valuable treasure, have you searched the surroundings of this crystal again? Of course I have. Lien Yen shakes his head and says with a sigh, but this kind of worldly treasure can only be found by those who are destined to get it. Xiao Yu got this rare treasure by accident. However, I sent several hundred experts to search the entire stone forest and smash all the huge rocks, but they didn't find even a tiny bit of ore. Qin Feng, however, says, we should be satisfied with this flaming red crystal alone. Xiao Yu got it because he was destined to get it. We'll search it again by force. If we can't find it, we won't be discouraged. That's right. I've never heard of such a large piece of top-grade ore. The black-clad middle-aged man stares at the flaming red crystal like a cat seeing a fish. Mr. He, are you sure you can forge this flaming red crystal? Qin Yu asks on one side. Everybody immediately stares at this weapon-forging grandmaster. Forging weapons is not so simple. To have good materials, you also need a good weapon-forging expert. This Mr. He was invited by East Vanquishing Prince Qin De at a great cost. He has been in the prince's mansion for over 10 years. Mr. He shakes his head. Everybody is stupefied. If I don't try, I won't be sure either. Mr. He takes off his black coat, revealing his muscular upper body. A faint smile unconsciously appears on the corners of his mouth. It is a smile that only appears when he is extremely excited. It's been a long time since I fought with my full strength. Bring me the blue flame water. Mr. He gives an order. Yes. A half-naked big man immediately returns to his room. In a short while, he takes out a crystal bottle. There is blue water in the crystal bottle. The strangest thing is that there is a layer of faint flame on the surface of the blue water. Mr. He takes the crystal bottle. Suddenly, his hands begin to turn red. A stream of heat starts to diffuse. The eyes of the three half-naked big men on one side all brighten. Master is finally going to make a move. It's been a long time since I've seen Master so serious. Master's burning the heavens arts has already reached an extremely high level. I wonder how powerful his attacks are. These three men were talking with each other. These three men were none other than Mr. He's three personal disciples. Naturally, they were also the ones the East Vanquishing Prince's mansion focused on nurturing. Qin Yu, Qin Feng, Qin Zhang, Lien Yen and Gu Min also look at Mr. He. Mr. He opened the cork of the crystal bottle. At the same time, the crystal bottle in his hand slightly poured out. Immediately, the blue flaming water dripped down and landed directly on the fiery red crystal. At the same time, a "chi-chi" sound was heard. The blue flaming water underwent a drastic change. This fiery red crystal is indeed powerful. Even the blue flaming water couldn't leave a mark on it, one of Mr. Black's disciples said in surprise. After a while, the blue flame water turned into a thin film, completely covering the fiery red crystal. Humph! Mr. Hay snorted coldly. His eyes suddenly glittered. His hands immediately shot out two blazing flames and sprayed them directly on the thin film on the surface of the fiery red crystal. That thin film was formed by the blue flaming water, but unexpectedly, the fiery red crystal didn't change at all. Senior brother, even masters burning the heavens flame and the blue flaming water couldn't leave a mark on it. How is this possible? One of Mr. Hay's disciples was shocked. Even a high Xian grade crystal couldn't be completely unscathed under masters burning the heavens flame. This. Another disciple also became doubtful. The excitement in Mr. Hay's eyes became even more intense. Suddenly, his face became very red and then became ashen. At the same time, the flames in his hands became smaller. However, the temperature of the entire courtyard suddenly increased. So powerful. Qin Yu was greatly shocked. He could completely feel the terror of this flame. The feeling he had in his heart was, he was absolutely no match for Mr. Hay in front of him. He even felt that the air in the courtyard was completely vibrating because of the high temperature. Qin Yu's guess was absolutely correct. This Mr. Hay was not only a master refiner, he himself had also reached the peak of the Xiantian level. He was one of the top experts under East Vanquishing Prince's command. The flame produced by the special Xiantian True Qi is much more powerful than ordinary flames. Ordinary Xian-grade ores can only be melted by such a flame. Qin Yu praised in his heart. However, when he saw the fiery red crystal, Qin Yu was also stunned. Under such circumstances, the fiery red crystal didn't change at all. Humph! Mr. Hay's face suddenly became dark. Boom! Mr. Hay's whole body emitted flames. The flames even completely burned his clothes. However, he was actually wearing a pair of underpants. The underpants were woven with black and gold silk. Mr. Hay's sect obviously knew that when the martial arts were pushed to the limit, the whole body would emit flames. Therefore, the black and gold underpants were passed down. Woven with black and gold silk, this was a huge investment. The elders of Mr. Hay's sect had to save up for a long time to get so much black gold. That underpants seems to be made of the same material as my black and gold undershirt. Qin Yu thought to himself. At the same time, the flame on Mr. Hay's hand became smaller and smaller. At the same time, it became even hotter. The whole courtyard was filled with waves of heat. The surrounding people couldn't help retreating far away. With such a flame, even the body of a Xiantian expert would be completely incinerated. Not even dregs would be left. Qin Yu sighed inwardly. Such a flame could even melt Xian-grade ores, not to mention the body of an ordinary person. Qin Yu, his brothers, Lian Yan, and the other three martial brothers were all staring at the fiery red crystal. They were hoping that this crystal would melt. If it couldn't be melted, how could they refine it? Time went by minute by minute. Everybody's eyes were completely focused on the fiery red crystal. Suddenly, puff! Mr. Hay spurted out a mouthful of blood. His face turned from black to pale. The flames on his whole body also disappeared in a flash. Master! A disciple behind him handed him clothes at once. Mr. Hay put them on. Looking at the fiery red crystal, he gave a long sigh. Then he turned around to look at Qin Yu and the others behind him, saying, "Everybody, I don't have any way to deal with this fiery red crystal." Seeing this weapon-refining Grandmaster Mr. Hay's face so pale, everybody knew that he had already tried his best. How is this possible? Didn't Mr. Hay refine this high-Xian-grade magic weapon for me several years ago? How come it can't even be melted now? Qin Feng asked Mr. Hay while holding the saber at his waist. When Qin Feng reached the Xiantian level, Qin De refined a high Xian grade or into a magic weapon and gave it to Qin Feng as a reward. Mr. He looked at the saber and said with a smile while shaking his head, "Silly boy, you still don't understand. Of course it's because this fiery red crystal has already surpassed the high Xian grade." Qin Yu was startled. He asked doubtfully, "Isn't high Xian grade or the highest grade?" In Qin Yu's mind, weapons were divided into mortal grade and Xian grade. In theory, high Xian grade should be the highest grade. How can it be higher than high Xian grade? What do you know? Mr. He's eyes radiated an aura of arrogance. In the weapon refining profession, he was definitely at the top of the pyramid. Weapons are divided into mortal grade and Xian grade, but that's only for us mortals. Let me ask you, what are the weapons used by Shangxian? Humph, even a high Xian grade saber can be easily pierced by a Shangxian's flying sword like a piece of paper. There was a hint of arrogance at the corners of Mr. He's mouth. Everybody present was immediately shocked. Right, those Shangxian who could soar through the ninth heaven and kill enemies from 1,000 li away, what are the grades of their weapons? Qin Yu and the others had heard that their flying swords could fly very far and kill people from 1,000 li away. Moreover, even high Xian grade weapons could not block them. Mortal grade and Xian grade are only determined by us mortals. Our horizons are only so big. The world of Shangxian is simply not something we can imagine. As for this flaming red crystal, if my guess is correct, it should be the material used to forge Shangxian's weapons. Mr. He stared at the flaming red crystal and said with great certainty. Qin Yu looked at the flaming red crystal. It was still completely undamaged and was emitting a faint red light. No matter how good this flaming red crystal is, it's useless. If it can't even be melted, how can it be forged into a weapon? Qin Feng said while shaking his head. Everyone including Lien Yan and Qin Yu had a helpless expression when they heard this. Right, if it can't even be melted, how can it be forged into a weapon? Qin Yu said with a smile while shaking his head, "Forget it. If even Mr. He can't melt it, there are only a few people in the world who can melt and forge it." "Hey, Third Majesty, why are you so discouraged? I can't melt it, but there's a real weapon refining grandmaster who can melt and forge it," Mr. He said with a smile. Hearing this, everybody looked at him doubtfully, including his 3 apprentices. A real weapon refining grandmaster? There's a weapon refining expert who is even more formidable than Mr. He? Qin Zheng asked doubtfully. Everybody present looked at Mr. He doubtfully. Mr. He said with a confident smile, "You don't know about this. Let me tell you a secret. Don't spread it around. In fact, not only are Shangxian absolutely invincible experts, they are also absolute weapon refining grandmasters." Oh. Everybody present knew that Shangxian were invincible and that their flying swords could kill people easily, but they didn't know about their weapon refining level. Every Shangxian can use a kind of flame. That flame is much more formidable than my internal chi flame. With that kind of flame, isn't it very easy to forge a weapon? Actually, if you use your brains, you'll know. Shangxian all have flying swords, but where did they come from? Could it be that they were dropped from the heavens or were they forged? Mr. He said mysteriously to everybody. Everybody suddenly understood. Right, I'll send someone to invite Shangxian Fenjiuzi right away, Lien Yan said at once. Qin Yu, however, raised his head and let out a whistle. Then he looked at everybody and said, "Xiao He is extremely fast. Xiao He and I are going to invite Uncle Feng." In an instant, a black beam of light shot down directly from the sky. It was none other than a black eagle. Qin Yu's body flashed and he got on it. Then the black eagle uttered a cry and flew directly towards the outskirts extremely fast. Chapter 36. The Qianlong continent has many different kinds of beasts. Many people have domesticated birds and beasts. However, most birds and beasts are only loyal to their owners. Others cannot ride them, and it is also difficult to domesticate them on a large scale. Usually, people like Qin Yu send letters to invite people. Once the war starts, these people who own birds mostly become scouts or attack from the sky. There are all kinds of battles in the Qianlong continent. Using all kinds of birds and beasts makes the battles more exciting and unpredictable. Moreover, the army usually has internal strength. For example, in the East vanquishing Prince's army, a soldier who has been in the army for a year is qualified to practice the lowest level of the 5 unique martial techniques. A soldier's strength is enough to kill 7 or 8 ordinary people. The higher the military merit, the higher the status, and the higher the level of the 5 unique martial techniques. Once the Qianlong continent army starts a war, the emergency recruits cannot be compared to the regular army. At least in terms of quality, they are much worse. A regular army of 200,000 can destroy an army of 1 million ordinary people. Sitting on the back of the Black Eagle, Qin Yu looked down. In just a moment, he has already left the Yen capital. In terms of speed, I don't think I have heard of any bird that can compare with the Black Eagle. Qin Yu smiled and touched the Black Eagle's neck. The Black Eagle is very fast. At least according to Qin Yu's knowledge, there is no bird that can compare with the Black Eagle in terms of speed. After all, the eagle is originally very fast, and Qin Yu's Black Eagle is a very special kind. It is 2 to 3 times faster than an ordinary eagle. The Black Eagle swooped down and flew directly to a straw hut. This straw hut is where Fenjiuzi usually lives. There is a lake around it and it is very quiet. There are no signs of human habitation and no one comes to disturb him. At this moment, in the lake not far from the straw hut, there is a red-crowned crane flying above. That is Fenjiuzi's mount. Fenjiuzi is standing outside the straw hut, looking up at Qin Yu who is descending from the sky. His face is full of smiles. Uncle Feng. Qin Yu directly jumped down from the Black Eagle and shouted excitedly. Little Yu, why are you here? Fenjiuzi says with a smile. Fenjiuzi himself is much older than Lian Yan, but he and Qin De treat each other like brothers. People like Fenjiuzi don't care about age. Qin Yu was just about to speak when he suddenly found that Fenjiuzi's eyes were completely focused on the Black Eagle. Uncle Feng, what's wrong? Do you know who Xiao He is? Qin Yu asked, puzzled. Fenjiuzi stared at the Black Eagle, but the Black Eagle didn't even look at Fenjiuzi. After a long time, Fenjiuzi shook his head and said, strange. Look at its crown. It seems to be a golden flame eagle, the emperor of eagles. But the golden flame eagle not only has a golden flame on its crown, but its feathers are also golden and burning. But this Black Eagle's body is pitch black, and its claws are also icy black. Fenjiuzi really couldn't see through it. Moreover, the golden flame eagle is extremely powerful. Even though it was just born a few years ago, its protective golden flame alone is enough to deal with Jin Dan stage Xiationists. But it's obvious that this Black Eagle is at most comparable to a Xiantian stage mortal. It's much weaker than the golden flame eagle. Fenjiuzi said with a frown. Hearing Fenjiuzi's words, Qin Yu also understood that Fenjiuzi couldn't tell what kind of bird the Black Eagle belonged to. Uncle Feng, what did you say about Jin Dan stage Xiationists? What's that? From what you said, it seems to be even more powerful than Xiantian experts. Aren't those who are more powerful than Xiantian experts the Shangxian stage? Qin Yu asked, puzzled. Fenjiuzi finally withdrew his attention from the Black Eagle. Looking at Qin Yu's puzzled eyes, he shook his head and said with a smile, Jin Dan stage Xiationists. Your Uncle Feng is a Jin Dan stage Xiationist. Uncle Feng? Qin Yu immediately frowned deeply. In Qin Yu's mind, Xiantian experts were already extremely powerful, and Shangxian above Xiantian experts were invincible. But now, according to Fenjiuzi, he was only a Jin Dan stage Xiationist. What did this mean? What was a Xiationist? What was a Jin Dan stage? Fenjiuzi said with a smile, well, let's talk about this later. Right, why did you come to see me? Don't tell me it's just to see Uncle Feng. Only now does Qin Yu remember what happened to him. He tosses the Jindan stage Xiationist aside and says hurriedly, Uncle Feng, I obtained a flaming red crystal. That crystal was really too hard. Even Mr. He couldn't leave a mark on it even after using his full strength. Mr. He said, what? Fenjiuzi suddenly said in shock. Qin Yu was frightened by Fenjiuzi's shock. In his mind, Fenjiuzi was always smiling calmly, as if nothing could shock him. But this Xiongxian was staring at Qin Yu with his eyes wide open. That brat surnamed He from the prince's mansion also couldn't leave a mark? Fenjiuzi hurriedly confirmed again. Qin Yu could only nod, not knowing what Fenjiuzi meant. Fenjiuzi's eyes suddenly lit up. That brat He has already practiced the sky-burning art to an extremely high level. Plus, his sex-special blue flame water can easily melt even ordinary good ores. But now, he couldn't even leave a mark on the fiery red crystal. What kind of precious ore is that fiery red crystal? Where is that fiery red crystal? Fenjiuzi stared at Qin Yu and asked. It's in the prince's mansion. Qin Yu immediately replied. Okay, let's go now. Fenjiuzi does not call out to the red-crowned crane. A flying sword suddenly appears under his feet. The flying sword becomes bigger and grabs Qin Yu. Qin Yu also stands on the sword. Fenjiuzi ignores the Black Eagle and flies directly towards Yen City. Uncle Fenjiuzi, they want me to. Qin Yu hurriedly said. He had asked Fenjiuzi to refine the fiery red crystal. This matter hadn't been mentioned yet. Fenjiuzi laughed. Don't say any more. I know why you're here. That kind of precious ore isn't something that you can refine. Only the true samadhi fire of a cultivator can refine it. Once Fenjiuzi said this, Qin Yu also understood. But in his heart, he was curious about what the true samadhi fire was. In just a moment, Qin Yu's attention was completely diverted to the flying sword. As for the Black Eagle, Qin Yu was not worried. He knew that the Black Eagle could easily find him. No matter where Qin Yu went, the Black Eagle could always find Qin Yu. Perhaps this was a special telepathy developed between a man and an eagle over the past 11 years. This is a flying sword. Qin Yu stared at this huge flying sword and exclaimed in his heart. There were talisman imprints on the flying sword. At the same time, it emitted waves of swift and fierce aura. Qin Yu was sure that if Fenjiuzi wanted to kill someone, the swift and fierce sword aura on the flying sword alone would be enough to kill a Xiantian-level expert. The flying sword could be big or small. It was really amazing. Its speed was even much faster than the Black Eagle's. In just a moment, the two of them arrived at the prince's mansion. Without needing Qin Yu to say anything, Fenjiuzi directly landed in the courtyard. As soon as Qin Feng, Qin Zhang, Lian Yan, Mr. He and the others in the courtyard saw Fenjiuzi, they hurriedly saluted and said, "Greetings, Upper Immortal." Fenjiuzi's eyes, however, were completely focused on the fiery red crystal in front of him. The light in his eyes was very blazing. In-stone flaming iron. Good heavens! Fenjiuzi seemed to remember how excited the elders of his school were when they found a piece of in-stone flaming iron in the deep sea when he was still practicing on the overseas immortal islands. They then gave the flying sword forged from it to a Yuanying stage senior who had made great contributions. But that piece of in-stone flaming iron was not even 1/10 of the size of the one in front of him. Whose is it? Fenjiuzi looked around at the several people and immediately asked. Xiao Yu found it by accident on Mount Donglon. Lian Yan replied at once. Fenjiuzi turned his head and looked at Qin Yu. His heart was filled with disbelief. He had once searched for several years in the boundless untainted land but only found ordinary ores. He had never thought that apart from the untainted land, there would also be such ores on the Qianlong continent. All right, I'll forge this crystal. Xiao Yu, you're the owner of this crystal, so you have the right to control it. Come with me. Fenjiuzi waved his hand. A vigorous energy wrapped around the fiery red crystal. The 2000 gene crystal flew up just like that. Yes. Even though Qin Yu was doubtful, he still followed Fenjiuzi. Fenjiuzi had several secret rooms in the prince's mansion. Even East-vanquishing Prince Qin De could not enter them without Fenjiuzi's permission. At the moment, Fenjiuzi led Qin Yu into a secret room specially used for forging holy weapons. Chapter 37. Holding a teacup in his hand, Qin De is looking outside through the window. Su Yuan, that Shangguan Hong should have also arrived, right? Qin De says slowly. Standing behind Qin De in the dark, Su Yuan says with a nod, according to our intelligence, North Vanquishing Prince Shangguan Hong has arrived. Tomorrow is the day of negotiation. Given his old fox nature, he definitely won't wait until the last day to arrive. Su Yuan suddenly says, Your Highness, there are still 3 years before the big event. Why are you in such a hurry to meet this Shangguan Hong? Su Yuan also knows that the South Vanquishing Prince's Mu clan is extremely loyal and will definitely stand on the side of the Imperial Xiong clan. East Vanquishing Prince Qin De basically has no hope of winning over the South Vanquishing Prince. Only fence-sitters like the Shangguan clan, the North Vanquishing Prince, can possibly be won over. This time, he wants to win over the Shangguan clan. Qin De puts down his teacup. The corners of his mouth slightly quirk up. Su Yuan, there's no other way. As far as I know, the leader of the Xiong clan's intelligence organization in the 3 eastern region counties has already been replaced by Zhan Su. Zhan Su. A pair of cold eyes immediately appear in Su Yuan's mind. Yes, it's Zhan Su. I know very well about the former leader's ability. He definitely couldn't find out the real strength of our army. However, this Zhan Su is not as incompetent as he used to be. According to my estimate, half a year is enough for him to find out the real strength of our army in the 3 eastern region counties. Qin De's expression is somewhat solemn. Su Yuan is also an extremely smart person, so he immediately understands what Qin De means. Your Highness, then your trump card in this negotiation is... Su Yuan cannot help admiring Qin De in his heart. Yes, that's exactly it. Qin De only has a smile on his face. It'll depend on the reaction afterwards. I have to be sure which side this Shangguan Hong is relying on. Of course, we can't pin our hopes on him. Su Yuan says with a nod, It'll be enough as long as Shangguan Hong doesn't help either side. Your Highness, I still have a piece of good news. With a face full of smiles, Su Yuan hands Qin De a letter. Oh. Qin De takes the letter. As soon as he reads it, his eyes brighten. He then bursts into loud laughter. You has done me a big favor. Such a big piece of ore, and a high Xian grade one at that. Such a big piece of ore can be used to forge so many godly weapons. This is really good news. This letter was written by Lian Yan. Lian Yan also wrote it to Qin Feng and Qin Zheng. Qin Feng and Qin Zheng then hurried back to the prince's mansion. However, Qin De didn't go back because he had something important to do. What Qin De didn't know was that the red crystal wasn't a high-grade celestial grade ore, but the in-rock flaming iron, which was much more precious than the high-grade celestial grade ore. Good. I'll definitely reward you, when I get back. Qin De's mood immediately improved. Su Yuan, go and carefully prepare for tomorrow's matter. Don't make any mistakes. Yes, I will take my leave. Su Yuan cupped his hands and left the room. Qin De held the letter in his hand with a fatherly smile on his face. In Fenjiuzi's private refining room in the East Prince Mansion of Yanjing City. The upper part of the room has a dome and the lower part is square, implying the meaning of round sky and square earth. In the middle of the room, there is a golden 8 trigrams on the floor. At the same time, various rays of light are moving around the 8 trigrams. A surging aura naturally spreads out and sweeps through the entire secret refining room. Outside the 8 trigrams, there are 3 cattail hassocks. At the moment, Fenjiuzi is sitting with legs crossed on the central cattail hassock. Qin Yu is sitting on one side. Go. Fenjiuzi points with one hand and the in-rock flaming iron immediately flies to the middle of the 8 trigrams. He then withdraws his internal elemental energy. The in-rock flaming iron unexpectedly floats above the 8 trigrams, as if the golden 8 trigrams has a miraculous power supporting the in-rock flaming iron. Seeing this miraculous scene, Qin Yu's heart is greatly shaken. Qin Yu is even more curious about the world of Shongxian. Flying swords, Jin Dan stage Xiationists, Samadhi fire, the miraculous 8 trigrams in front of him. All of this made Qin Yu curious about what kind of world the high immortals lived in. Xiao Yu, this in-rock flaming iron was discovered by you, so it's naturally yours. I want a bit of the in-rock flaming iron. It's the size of a fist. Is that okay? Fenjiuzi says a little embarrassedly. He, a Shangxian, is asking a junior for a treasure. He is really ashamed. However, Fenjiuzi is looking forward to this in-rock flaming iron very much. Although his flying sword is not bad, in terms of material, it can't be compared with the in-rock flaming iron. 4 Xiationists, elixirs and good crystals are very attractive. Of course, Uncle Feng, you can take whatever you want. Qin Yu is not the child he was before. He knows it very well. This Fenjiuzi is an absolute expert on his father's side. Moreover, with a better flying sword, Fenjiuzi's strength will also increase. In addition, the in-rock flaming iron is so big that he doesn't care about a bit of it. Of course, I'll take this fist-sized in-rock flaming iron, so I owe you a big favor. If you have any request, just say it. Uncle Feng will agree to it. Fenjiuzi says quickly. As a Shangxian, he wants other people's treasure. Naturally, he has to give something back. Any request? Qin Yu's eyes brighten. Fenjiuzi smiles and nods. Yes, as long as I can do it. Then can you tell me about the world of Shangxian? You mentioned something about Xiationists and true Samadhi fire. I'm very curious about them. Qin Yu says quickly. That's it? Fenjiuzi is startled. Qin Yu says with a smile. Yes, that's it. In fact, what I want most is for my Dantian to become normal, so that I can accumulate internal energy and cultivate to become a Xiantian master, or even a Shangxian. Uncle Feng, you can choose between these 2 requests. Qin Yu smiles. Fenjiuzi shakes his head and smiles bitterly. I can't do anything about your Dantian. Well, I'll tell you more about the world of Xiationists. Fenjiuzi says after a bit of thought. In fact, the so-called Shangxian in the Qianlong continent are not real immortals. They are just Xiationists who want to become immortals. Xiationists? Qin Yu asks doubtfully. Fenjiuzi says, yes, if a mortal wants to become an immortal, he has to go through countless tribulations. First, he has to reach the Xiantian realm. When he reaches the peak of the Xiantian realm, he will encounter the 4-9 minor heavenly tribulations. If he succeeds, he will step into the ranks of Xiationists and become a Jin Dan stage Xiationist. Your Uncle Feng is a Jin Dan stage Xiationist. 4-9 minor heavenly tribulations? Qin Yu doesn't understand these terms at all. Fenjiuzi says with a smile, cultivation is against the natural order. Of course, you have to face the heavenly tribulations. Compared to the other 2 major heavenly tribulations, the 4-9 minor heavenly tribulations is still easy. Xiationists are divided into Jin Dan stage, Yuanying stage, Dongshu stage, Kongming stage, Dujie stage, and Dashang stage. Each stage is divided into early, middle, and late stages. Only by going through endless tribulations, after reaching the Dashang stage, one can ascend and finally become an immortal. To tell the truth, I have just stepped into the ranks of Xiationists, but I am called Shangxian in the Qianlong continent. I am really ashamed. Qin Yu understands that these Qianlong continent experts called Shangxian are only Jin Dan stage Xiationists. They are far from becoming immortals. The path of Xiationists is full of tribulations. After passing the 4-9 minor heavenly tribulations and reaching the Jin Dan stage, one's lifespan will increase by thousands of years. A Yuanying stage Xiationist's lifespan will increase by 5,000 years. When one reaches the late Yuanying stage and reaches the critical point, it will trigger the 6-9 major heavenly tribulations. Only after passing through the 6-9 major heavenly tribulations can one enter the Dongshu stage. At that time, the Yuanying stage can merge with the soul and allow the Yuanying to leave the body. Only then can one become immortal. Fenjiuzi's eyes emit rays of light. Unfortunately, the 6-9 major heavenly tribulations are too terrifying. Moreover, The 6-9 major heavenly tribulations are not something that just anyone can encounter. The Yuanying stage and the Dongshu stage are the most fundamental transformations of the soul. Many experts who have reached the late Yuanying stage for thousands of years can only die in the end. They are unable to break through and meet the 6-9 major heavenly tribulations. Fenjiuzi sighs. Qin Yu's heart is in a perilous situation. Thousands of years? A Zionist's lifespan is measured in thousands of years. When one reaches the Dongshu stage, one becomes immortal. What kind of world is that? Chapter 38. However, the 4-9 minor heavenly tribulations and the 6-9 major heavenly tribulations can't be compared to the final 9 from 9 heavenly tribulations. The terror of the 9 from 9 heavenly tribulations is not something that a little Jindan stage cultivator like me can imagine. Every passing tribulation stage cultivator has the power to destroy heaven and earth, but under the 9 from 9 heavenly tribulations, not even 1 out of 10 can survive. Even their soul will be scattered, never to be reincarnated. Fenjiuzi's eyes were full of fear. In the exaggeration of the elders of the sect, the 9 from 9 heavenly tribulations is an absolute disaster. Not even 1 out of 10 can survive? Soul scattered? Qin Yu was completely shocked. At this moment, he completely understood what kind of existence cultivators were. They were a group of people who went against the heavens. In order to pursue the limits of man, they fought against the heavens and the earth. They were not afraid of anything. When the heavens sent down the heavenly tribulations, cultivators could only desperately resist. If they succeeded, they would continue to pursue the great Tao. If they failed, their soul would be scattered. Qin Yu completely understood and couldn't help but sigh. Jindan stage, Yuanying stage, Dongshu stage, Kongming stage, Passing Tribulation stage, Deshang stage. Each stage seems to be difficult to break through. If you want to step into the Jindan stage, you have to endure the minor heavenly tribulations. If you want to step into the Dongshu stage, you have to endure the major heavenly tribulations. When you reach the Passing Tribulation stage, you have to endure the 9 from 9 heavenly tribulations. The 3 major heavenly tribulations are stuck at 3 junctures. In the path of cultivation, there are very few people who can truly become immortals. After hearing Qin Yu's words, Fenjiuzi's anger seemed to have been aroused. He sneered, "It's more than very few. If you want to pass the 9 from 9 heavenly tribulations and become immortals, you have to be extremely talented, have the protection of a top-grade spirit weapon, and also need Lingdan and so on. But how can an ordinary person obtain a top-grade spirit weapon and a large amount of Lingdan? When I reached the Jindan stage, the sect gave me a flying sword, but it was only a low-grade spirit weapon. For me, if I don't have a top-grade spirit weapon, wanting to pass the major heavenly tribulations in the future is a dream. But it's not like I don't have a background. How could an insignificant disciple like me be able to obtain a high-grade spirit weapon in the sect?" When Qin Yu heard this, he completely understood. He thought to himself, "It seems that Uncle Feng was not valued when he was cultivating on the Immortal Island. Uncle Feng, what exactly are these spiritual tools and spiritual pills?" Qin Yu asked. Fenjiuzi took a deep breath and calmed himself down. He said, "Little Yu, a cultivator's cultivation is like a martial artist's internal energy cultivation. As for spirit weapons, they are like weapons. With a good spirit artifact, of course, one's strength will increase greatly." Qin Yu completely understood this analogy. Just like when Qin Yu was 13 years old, he fought with the horse gang leader Wu Tuan. His strength was obviously not as good as Wu Tuan, but in the end, he relied on the Yuchong sword to pierce through Wu Tuan's protective Zhen Qi and killed Wu Tuan directly. This was the advantage of a weapon. Cultivators have a lot of spirit weapons. Most of them are flying swords, but some use other strange weapons as well. These are collectively called spiritual tools. Spiritual tools are divided into 4 levels: low grade, middle grade, high grade, and top grade. As for spiritual pills, they are spiritual pills with various effects. When passing the heavenly tribulation, the consumption of one's Zhen Qi is the most serious. Eating spiritual pills is the best way to replenish it. Spiritual pills are also divided into 4 levels: low grade, middle grade, high grade, and top grade. Fenjiuzi explained carefully. Qin Yu absorbed all of this in his heart and constantly sorted it out. A cultivator's strength is divided into their own cultivation and the effects of their spiritual tools and spiritual pills. The 3 major heavenly tribulations, from the Jindan stage to the Dashang stage, the 6 major stages, Qin Yu remembered clearly. Zhen Qi. Is it the name of a cultivator's own strength? Qin Yu asked. Yes, when a Jindan is formed, the energy in the body changes from Xiantian Zhen Qi to Zhen Qi. Fenjiuzi said with a smile. Then, Fenjiuzi sighed and said, Xiaoyu, the world of Zayashinists is not as beautiful as you think. In the Zayashinist world, people may kill each other for the sake of heaven and earth treasures. For the sake of a good ore, such as this in-rock flaming iron, it may even cause Zayashinists to fight each other. A war between cultivators, especially between super experts like the Dongshu stage and the Kongming stage, can overturn rivers and seas and destroy the heavens and the earth. Heaven and earth treasures, spiritual pills, spiritual tools, flying swords, and so on, can all cause cultivators to go crazy. Fenjiuzi said with a smile. Qin Yu's heart was in turmoil. He could completely imagine the scene of a war between cultivators. A Jindan stage cultivator was already so powerful and was absolutely invincible on the Qianlong continent. How terrifying would a battle between cultivators of the Yuanying stage, the Dongshu stage, the Kongming stage, the Dujie stage, and so on be? Once a cultivator's anger soared to the heavens and they started a massacre, even if the mountains collapsed and the earth cracked, rivers and seas overturned, countless mortals would also die. If a cultivator were to fly on a sword with his hands tied, he would soar to the 9th heaven and disappear to the ends of the earth. Mortals simply would not be able to catch up. In short, cultivators and mortals are fundamentally on 2 different levels. No matter what they want to do, mortals have no power to resist. Perhaps, in the eyes of cultivators, they look at the people of the entire continent just like how humans look at ants. These are 2 completely different worlds. In the world of cultivators, they pursue the endless way of the heavens and they pursue the tribulation to become immortals. Mortals, on the other hand, pursue power and kill each other. Qin Yu sighed in his heart. He completely understood what a cultivator was. At the same time, Qin Yu's heart was broadened. Qianlong continent's Shongxian? They were just a few of the most common Jindan stage cultivators from the overseas immortal islands. In the world of cultivators, the Jindan stage was only the lowest level. However, these Jindan stage cultivators were respectfully called Shongxian in the Qianlong continent. They were absolutely supreme existences. Qin Yu's heart suddenly moved. Uncle Feng, in my opinion, cultivators seem to pursue the limits of human beings and fight with the heavens and earth. However, to pursue the limits of human beings is the only way to enter the Jindan stage and then practice Yuanying? Is there no other path? Qin Yu asked doubtfully. According to Qin Yu's own thinking, since it was to pursue the limits of the human body, of course there would be different methods. Uncle Feng thought for a while and shook his head with a smile. Xiaoyu, don't think too much. I don't even know who the first cultivator was. I don't know if there were cultivators millions or tens of millions or even hundreds of millions of years ago. The different paths you're talking about are human, immortal, or devil. Birds and beasts mostly cultivate Yao. Although human and devil cultivators have different paths, they all form Jindan and become Yuanying. Birds and beasts form Niden. As for devil cultivators, I'm not too clear. Must one form Jindan and cultivate Yuanying? Qin Yu muttered. Could it be that different paths lead to the same destination? Ah, that's right. Fenjiuzi suddenly said, Xiaoyu, a long time ago, of course, at that time I was not born yet. At that time, a big event happened in the Qianlong continent. The Great War of the Immortals. I reckon that the mysterious person in the Great War of the Immortals was probably not a Jindan cultivator. Chapter 39. War of the Immortals? Qin Yu asked doubtfully. Fenjuzi's eyes lit up. Yes, this is what I heard from the sect seniors when I was cultivating in the overseas Immortal Islands. There were several loose immortals and dozens of Kongming stage and Dujie stage experts who participated in the war. Even the leader was a Deshang stage Ziotionist. Wait a minute, what are loose immortals? Qin Yu hurriedly asked. Fenjuzi shook his head with a smile. I forgot to even talk about loose immortals. During the 9 from 9th Heaven tribulation, some Zionists knew that they couldn't pass the tribulation, so they tried their best to preserve their Yuanying souls. With their bodies destroyed, they could only cultivate as loose immortals. You should know that loose immortals are extremely strong and are generally a bit stronger than Dujie stage experts. Loose immortals are so strong? A Deshang stage Ziotionist who passed the tribulation, several loose immortals and dozens of Kongming stage and Dujie stage experts. For what? Qin Yu asked closely. To kill one person, just to kill one person. Fenjuzi's face became serious. To kill one person, so many experts, just to kill one person? Qin Yu couldn't imagine that so many people were actually just to kill one person. Who was this person? Qin Yu even thought of an immortal. Fenjuzi nodded. Yes, according to the legends in the Ziotionist world, that mysterious person wasn't cultivating Yuanying at all. In the end, that mysterious person went crazy and burst out with the most blazing power, just like the sun. At that time, including the Deshang stage Zionists, so many experts were all killed. Fenjuzi said excitedly. Xiaoyu, do you know what happened down there? Do you know? Fenjuzi's whole body was excited. He patted Qin Yu's shoulder and stared at Qin Yu. Qin Yu hurriedly shook his head. He couldn't imagine that there was actually such a powerful person who could kill Deshang stage experts and loose immortals. Those weak Zionists who were hiding in the distance and didn't dare to approach actually found out. That mysterious person started to pass the tribulation after killing so many people. It was the 9 from 9th Heaven tribulation. Heavens, the mysterious person who killed so many Deshang stage experts and so many loose immortals crossing tribulation stage experts, he actually hasn't crossed tribulation yet. Fenjuzi's entire body became excited. He hasn't even undergone the tribulation yet. If he's already so strong without undergoing the tribulation, then... Qin Yu was also shocked. A person who hasn't even gone through tribulation killed a Deshang stage expert, as well as so many loose immortals and dozens of Kongming stage and Dujie stage experts. This was simply unimaginable. If they both practiced Jin Dan and Yuanying, how could there be such a huge gap between them? Countless seniors are sure of one thing. This mysterious man is also a Ziotionist, but he is definitely not a devil cultivator, immortal cultivator, or demon cultivator. He belongs to a new type. Just the power that erupted from his body at the end was as pure as the sun. That's not something a tribulation passing stage expert can erupt with. Even a Deshang stage expert would die in the face of such power. Fenjuzi seemed to be imagining the great battle of the immortals. Qin Yu was also imagining it in his heart. After a long time, Fenjuzi slowly calmed down. He looked at Qin Yu and said with a smile, Xiaoyu, the story of this great battle of the immortals has been circulating. Almost everyone in the overseas Immortal Islands knows about it. Even many people in the Qianlong continent know about it. Oh, many people in the Qianlong continent know about it. Qin Yu's heart moved. If it wasn't for the Zionists, how could the people in the Qianlong continent know about it? Fenjuzi nodded and continued, Don't worry. At that time, many seniors in the overseas Immortal Islands were watching from afar. They saw with their own eyes that the mysterious expert was going through tribulation. He passed. Qin Yu was actually a little worried about this mysterious man. Fenjuzi shook his head and said, He failed. Under the 9 from 9th Heaven tribulation, the mysterious man's entire body turned into the sun. The mysterious man has been using his own cultivation to resist the heavenly tribulation, unlike the other Zionists who used spirit weapons to resist the heavenly tribulation. After fighting with dozens of Zionists, the mysterious man didn't even have time to rest before he welcomed the heavenly tribulation. When the ninth heavenly thunder struck, the mysterious man couldn't resist it. His body was shattered and his power was greatly damaged. However, he didn't die immediately. He gathered the last of his energy and said his last words to the entire Qianlong continent, including the surrounding Xiationists. Fenjiuzi seemed to be reminiscing. Qin Yu didn't dare to disturb Fenjiuzi's recollection, but in his heart, he was curious. Traversing the boundless universe, experiencing the evolution of the universe, drifting for thousands of years, passing through countless planets, but today, my soul is about to scatter. The heavens don't help me. The stars change. The blazing sun is not the end. What can I do? Everyone in this continent, listen up. Today, I will pass on the 3 diagrams of the sky piercing. When someone obtains the 3 diagrams and comprehends its mystery, they will receive my inheritance. Haha. Lan Shi, misfortune. Fenjiuzi's voice was faintly discernible as he finished this sentence. Qin Yu constantly pondered the meaning of these words. What universe, what planets, and what stars change? Qin Yu couldn't understand the meaning of planets, but he knew the meaning of the mysterious man's last words. Obviously, the 3 diagrams of the sky piercing contained the entire inheritance of the mysterious man's technique. But what did the words Lan Shi and misfortune mean? Was it also a misfortune to obtain this technique? Before the mysterious man died, he used great energy to create the 3 diagrams, which are the 3 diagrams of the sky piercing. The 3 diagrams of the sky piercing were scattered in the Qianlong continent. For countless years, even the people of the overseas Immortal Island had collected the 3 diagrams. For so many years, I don't know how many people have collected the 3 diagrams at the same time, but no one has comprehended the mystery of the 3 diagrams and obtained the inheritance of the mysterious man. Fenjiuzi sighed. Collecting the 3 diagrams was not difficult for the self-cultivators, but no one could comprehend the mystery of the 3 diagrams of the sky piercing. In those days, your ancestor Qin Shi Huang also obtained the 3 diagrams at the same time, but unfortunately, he didn't comprehend the mystery. If he could comprehend it, maybe he wouldn't have died. Fenjiuzi laughed. Qin Yu had an impulse in his heart. That was the yearning from the bottom of his heart, yearning for the world of self-cultivators. Self-cultivators either ride their swords up to the 9th heaven, or go down to the endless deep sea, or explore the endless wilderness, or fight with the prehistoric demonic beasts. Usually, they absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, pursue the ultimate goal of the human body, fight with the heaven and earth, fight with experts at the same level, and disregard life and death. This kind of life is very satisfying. Qin Yu sighed in his heart. Hearing about the world of self-cultivators, Qin Yu yearned for it from the bottom of his heart. Qin Yu took a deep breath. Withdrawing his heart from this description of the world of self-cultivators, Qin Yu understood that he was only a mortal who hadn't even reached the Xiantian level. Even among the billions of mortals on the Qianlong continent, Qin Yu couldn't be counted as a person at the top of the pyramid. He needed to be steady. The 3 diagrams of the sky piercing were very vague. Qin Yu's biggest reliance now was Lu Xing's tears and his own efforts. By relying on the miraculous tears of Lu Xing and his own efforts, he was able to practice external techniques to the unprecedented Xiantian level. Xiao Yu, what kind of holy weapon do you want? I'll help you refine it. Fenjiuzi asked Qin Yu. The affairs of the world of self-cultivators were like a vague legend. At the moment, Qin Yu was still very far away. He was only the son of the East-vanquishing prince of the Chu kingdom on the Qianlong continent, an ordinary expert who had practiced the most difficult external techniques and hadn't even reached the Xiantian level. Holy weapon? Qin Yu was startled. If you use in-rock flaming iron to refine it, of course it's a holy weapon. But you don't have any elemental energy, so you can only use the sharpness of the holy weapon itself. You can't change the size of the holy weapon or use some special attacks. Fenjiuzi shook his head and said, but the holy weapon can be integrated into the body, and its sharpness far surpasses that of mortal weapons. With this holy weapon, you definitely won't have any problems protecting your body. I hope you can refine a battle armor. Qin Yu said with a smile. No need. Help me refine a short sword according to the size of the Yuchong sword. Also, refine a pair of gloves to protect the knuckles of my fists. As for the rest, forget it. Leave some for my father. That's all? Fenjiuzi couldn't believe it. Short sword, gloves. How much in-rock flaming iron was used to refine? After all, this was the in-rock flaming iron that Qin Yu had obtained. It's enough. If you rely too much on external materials when practicing external techniques, it's not good for your own practice. Uncle Fenjiuzi, I won't disturb you any longer. I'll leave first. Qin Yu immediately bowed and turned to leave. Seeing Qin Yu's back, Fenjiuzi came to his senses and said at once, "It'll take a long time to refine the holy weapon. It'll probably take 3 to 5 days." Only after Qin Yu leaves does Fenjiuzi say with a sigh, "Perhaps this brat only forged this little bit so that he could leave some more in-rock flaming iron for his father." After leaving the secret room, Qin Yu looked up at the sky. At the moment, it was already dark and cold wind was blowing. I haven't helped my father much since I was young. This time, I've helped my father once. A smile appeared on Qin Yu's face, but then it disappeared. Well, there's still 3 to 5 days. During this time, I'll work hard and practice a lot. I'll see if I can reach the innate realm with my external techniques. With this thought in mind, Qin Yu immediately let out a long whistle. A moment later, a black eagle swooped down. Qin Yu jumped on it and directly left the prince's mansion and Yen capital. Chapter 40. The Chu Kingdom is the #1 country on the Qianlong continent. The masters of the Qin clan and the Shangguan clan of the 4 big clans are in a secluded small courtyard. Qin De is sitting beside a stone table with a calm expression. Su Yuan is also standing on one side, waiting calmly. "Ha ha, brother Qin De, long time no see." An old man with silver-white hair walks over in large strides. This old man unexpectedly has golden earrings on his ears. His eyes are very gloomy, but at the moment they are full of enthusiasm. Qin De stands up and points to one side, saying smilingly, "Brother Shangguan, please sit down." Shangguan Hong, the Chu Kingdom's north vanquishing prince, controls the 2 northern region counties. At the moment there are only 4 people in the courtyard, namely Qin De and Su Yuan. The other 2 are Shangguan Hong and his subordinate Zhuang Jun. Outside the courtyard, however, there are a large number of experts on guard in secret. "Brother Qin De, why did you come to see me this time?" Shangguan Hong tidied her silver hair before sitting down. Clearly, Shangguan Hong cared a lot about her hair. His subordinate Zhuang Jun is standing behind him. Qin De says smilingly, "I won't beat around the bush either. Help me and we'll seize the Chu Kingdom together." Shangguan Hong is startled. He did not expect Qin De to be so straightforward, even though he has already guessed why Qin De wants to meet him in secret this time. Shangguan Hong then gives a hollow laugh. "This, brother Qin De, don't joke about it. I'll lose my head. I can pretend I've never heard about this." Qin De slowly shakes his head and says, "I'm asking you, will you do it or not?" Shangguan Hong, however, does not answer. Only after being silent for a long time does he raise his head and ask, "Even if we join hands, how sure are you?" 80%. Qin De says indifferently. Shangguan Hong, however, bursts out laughing and says, "Brother Qin De, don't fool me. The Mu clan has 600,000 troops and the 4 western region counties have 800,000 troops. In total, there are 1,400,000 troops. My 2 northern region counties only have 400,000 troops in total while yours only has 600,000. How can you be 80% sure? If I want to destroy the Xiong clan, I'll need more than just 600,000 troops." Qin De says with a smile. Shangguan Hong narrows his eyes. "Oh? It seems brother Qin De also has quite a few troops in secret. But the Xiong clan and the Mu clan together have 1.4 million troops. How many troops do you have in secret? I dare say you're 80% sure. Moreover, if you have a lot of troops in secret, how can you evade the Xiong clan's investigation?" Shangguan Hong obviously doesn't believe this at all. There are still 200,000 in secret. Qin De says with a smile. In total, there are only 800,000 soldiers. My fierce Tiger Corps only has 50,000 soldiers, but their real attacking power is comparable to that of 200,000 to 300,000 soldiers. Shangguan Hong's eyes lit up. Of course he knows how formidable the fierce Tiger Corps is. After calculating for a while, he says with a smile, Indeed, if we only talk about army quality, the army of your 3 eastern region counties is the strongest. If there was really 200,000 hidden in the dark, there was still some hope. But as far as I know, the bandits in the Blackwater Mountain Range still need your 200,000 troops to intimidate them. Otherwise, the bandits of the Blackwater Mountain Range will wreak havoc in the 3 eastern region counties and mess up your nest. However, Qin De said indifferently, there is no need to worry about this. They are just some bandits. Although the Blackwater Mountain Range is extremely vast and it is extremely difficult to exterminate them, the Blackwater Mountain Range is extremely large. However, the bandits of the Blackwater Mountain Range were only bandits. As long as we have a discussion and give them some benefits, they will settle down. Qin De's eyes suddenly brighten. Then my army can definitely attack. You should know that my 3 eastern region counties are right next to the wilderness. My army often trains in the wilderness and attacks the demonic beasts of the wilderness. They are definitely not comparable to the 4 western region counties, which have not fought for decades or even 100 years. Qin De is very confident. Shangguan Hong, however, nods affirmatively. Indeed, the 4 great clans each have their own army. However, in terms of fighting power, the army of the 3 eastern region counties is definitely the strongest. This is because the headquarters of the 3 eastern region counties are right on the border of the wilderness and they often fight ferocious beasts of the wilderness. However, the armies of the Xiang, Mu and Shangguan clans have not fought for decades or even 100 years. Shangguan Hong keeps thinking in his mind. After a while, he raises his head and says, Then what benefits do I get? How can you guarantee that you won't kill me after destroying the Xiang clan? Qin De says with a smile, It's very simple. The 2 counties of the 4 western region counties right next to the ocean in the north will belong to you. Together with your original 2 counties, you will have 4 counties in total. These 4 counties are all close to each other and their backs are against the ocean. With these 4 counties and the ocean as your back, you won't be afraid that I'll go back on my word. What do you think? The 4 counties right next to the ocean? Shangguan Hong's eyes immediately brighten. Obviously he is tempted. These 4 counties are right next to each other. Once they belong to him, even if Qin De wants to destroy him later, it will be very difficult. After all, with the ocean as a natural barrier and the 4 counties in his hands, at least he will have absolutely no problem protecting himself. Moreover, after the war, perhaps the Qin clan will not have much power to deal with him. Then what if the Han dynasty takes advantage of this to attack us? Shangguan Hong continues to ask. Qin De stands up and says with a wave of his hand, You don't have to worry about this. The Han dynasty definitely won't have any chance. As for the Ming dynasty, I believe it's a weak dynasty that can only be attacked but doesn't dare to attack. Shangguan Hong is silent. After a long time, he nods his head. I promise you, but the troops of my 2 northern region counties will definitely not be the vanguard. All right, it's a deal. Qin De and Shangguan Hong make an oath by high-fiving each other. Ha ha. Qin De and Shangguan Hong look at each other and burst out laughing. However, nobody knows what they are thinking. Does a high-fiving oath have to be obeyed? On the Qianlong continent, very few people believe in high-fiving oaths. The next day, in a courtyard, Shangguan Hong is sitting at a desk and writing at a high speed. Zhuang Jun is standing on one side respectfully. After a while, Shangguan Hong has finished writing. He reads it carefully again and cannot help feeling very satisfied. Humph, that idiot Qin De unexpectedly wants to rebel and even wants to drag me down with him. Isn't it very good for me to be the North vanquishing prince now? Although, the 4 counties are also very attractive. What a pity. Shangguan Hong looks at a piece of paper on the desk and cannot help bursting out laughing. On one side, Zhuang Jun says, "Your Highness, this Qin clan's conditions are not bad. Moreover, they can be considered sincere. Are we really not going to give them any hope?" Shangguan Hong turns to look at Zhuang Jun and bursts out laughing. "Zhuang Jun, we can't lose. Do you know? That's why we have to bet on both sides. Whether the Qin clan or the Xiong clan wins, we have to get some benefits." Zhuang Jun is confused. Shangguan Hong, however, gives a smile. Zhuang Jun is his most loyal subordinate and also the number 2 figure in the 2 northern region counties. Zhuang Jun has saved Shangguan Hong's life twice. Shangguan Hong naturally thinks highly of Zhuang Jun. "Zhuang Jun, I'm sure I can handle this matter. You don't need to worry. You can go out." Shangguan Hong says with an indifferent smile, "I'll take my leave." Zhuang Jun immediately leaves the room. Shangguan Hong's face suddenly freezes. "Send this letter to His Majesty." Suddenly, a black shadow flashes and the letter on Shangguan Hong's desk disappears. Shangguan Hong narrows his eyes and looks out of the window. He thinks to himself, "Qin De, you can't imagine the relationship between my Shangguan clan and the Xiong clan. You can only blame your bad luck. Even if I don't help either side, how can your clan contend against the Xiong clan and the Mu clan? When the time comes and the 3 eastern region counties are destroyed, maybe I'll be able to get some benefits." Shangguan Hong's plan is so beautiful, but will the Qin clan put its hopes on him? Chapter 41. In the Imperial Study of the Imperial Palace in Beijing. Ha ha. Holding the 2 letters, Xiong Guang cannot help laughing wildly. Zhan Su has indeed lived up to expectations. He has hidden an additional 200,000 soldiers. Just the expenditure of such a large number of soldiers is a very large number. If Qin De does not want to rebel, why would he have so many soldiers? "Don't tell me you think you have too much money?" Xiong Guang laughs coldly. Zhan Su was in charge of the intelligence and investigation work of the 3 eastern region counties. In just half a year, he had made progress on many matters. "Your Majesty, right now that Qin De has secretly recruited 200,000 more soldiers, but with the Blackwater bandits holding him back, he doesn't dare to mobilize his entire army. Otherwise, the Blackwater bandits will cause chaos in his lair. There's nothing to worry about at all," the hook-nosed man said from a dark corner behind him. Xiong Guang puts down the letter in his hand and says, "What do you know?" Although the Blackwater bandits' tail was big, bandits were still bandits. As long as they were given some benefits, they wouldn't cause trouble. That Qin De can still take out 800,000 soldiers to wage war against me. "Your Majesty is wise." The hook-nosed man bowed. According to Zhan Su's investigation, the 3 eastern region counties have some signs of preparation of provisions, fodder, materials, and so on. In addition, they have secretly recruited 200,000 soldiers. Moreover, these 200,000 soldiers have been recruited for more than 5 years and have already become elite troops. All this shows that Qin De really wants to rebel. Xiong Guang's eyes immediately flash with coldness. The hook-nosed man did not dare to make a sound. "Very good, you want to rebel, right?" A hint of complacency appears on Xiong Guang's face instead. "Remember, immediately send someone to negotiate with the Blackwater bandits and provide them with gold, silver, jewels, materials and so on so that when the war starts, the Blackwater bandits will create chaos in the Qin De's base." The hook-nosed man thought for a moment and said, "What if the bandits' appetite is too big?" "Idiot!" Xiong Guang suddenly turns around and stares at the hook-nosed man. "We must make them agree at all costs. We can even promise to give them a county if we win." "A county?" The hawk-nosed man is startled. Afterwards, he also understands. "I understand. Even if you give it to them, it still depends on whether they have the fortune to enjoy it or not." Having followed Xiong Guang for so many years, he knows Xiong Guang's character very well. Xiong Guang nods his head in satisfaction. "Smart. When Qin De is dealt with, Won't a gang of Shao Hei water bandits be annihilated at my command? I'm just asking them for a favor. Your Majesty is wise. This subordinate knows what to do. The hook-nosed man replied. Xiang Guang reads another letter, then says, Uncle Shangguan's letter also confirms everything Zhan Su has investigated. The hook-nosed man's eyes swivel around. Suddenly he says, Your Majesty, why don't we capture the ringleader first? We'll secretly send someone to assassinate that Qin De. In this way, without a leader, we can easily annihilate the Qin family if we send another army. Stupid. Xiang Guang says with a cold smile. The hook-nosed man's body trembled. If I send people to assassinate him now, let's not talk about whether they will succeed or not. Even if they succeed, the Qin clan will immediately have a new clan master. As far as I know, he has 3 sons. Except for the third, the other 2 are all dragons among men. Moreover, when the time comes, the Qin clan will go crazy and attack. The 800,000-strong army of the Qin clan is no joke. Xiang Guang says with a cold smile. Moreover, once we assassinate them, the Qin family will definitely guess that it was Shang Guan Hong who betrayed them. It's not worth it for us. Do you understand? Xiang Guang stares at the hook-nosed man and says. I'm stupid. The hook-nosed man hurriedly says. A hint of complacency appears on Xiang Guang's face. Now we won't assassinate them. Even if the Qin clan rebels, we'll still let the Shangguan clan help them. When the Qin clan is completely defenseless, at the critical moment of the war, the Shangguan clan will suddenly change sides and ruthlessly stab the Qin clan in the back. Humph, I'll see if the Qin clan is still not done for. The hook-nosed man's eyes immediately brighten. He hurriedly says, Your Majesty, you're so wise. At the critical moment of the war, if you stab the Qin clan in the back and our cavalry attacks, we'll definitely be able to easily annihilate it. Xiang Guang is very satisfied with his plan. He nods and says indifferently, All right, now you can go and do your thing. Think of ways to rope in the bandits of the Blackwater Mountain Range. Gold, silver, jewels, beautiful women, materials and so on, everything is fine. You must let them mess up the Qin clan's base during the war. As for the Qin clan and the Shangguan clan, we'll pretend that we don't know anything. I understand. I'll take my leave. The hook-nosed man bows and says. His body then disappears in a flash. After a while, the hook-nosed man appears in a courtyard. Husband, you've come back. A beautiful woman walks over. Father. A cute little boy also runs over. The hook-nosed man picks up his son and hugs the beautiful woman, saying, Madam, let's go back to your room. Don't stay here and catch a cold. All the servants in the courtyard are very respectful. After entering the room, the beautiful woman asks quietly, Husband, did His Majesty ask you to do something? When will you stop doing it? If it's always like this, I'll always feel uneasy. The hook-nosed man lovingly embraces the beautiful woman and says, Madam, don't worry. How could I not know how dangerous it is to do this? But I know too many of His Majesty's secrets, so I definitely won't have a chance to stop doing it. Don't worry. Given Xiang Guang's little bit of wisdom, I'm sure I can deal with him. The hook-nosed man suddenly frowns. He thinks to himself, given Xiang Guang's character, if he knew Qin De was really going to rebel, perhaps he would have already sent people to assassinate him. How come he unexpectedly calmed down this time and even pretended that he didn't know, letting the Shangguan clan attack him in the end? As the leader of Xiang Guang's secret agents, how can the hook-nosed man really be such an idiot? Everything he did in the imperial study was just an act. If he wants Xiang Guang to be at ease with him, he must let Xiang Guang discover his weakness. But how can he really let the emperor discover his weakness? Therefore, it is best for him to deliberately pretend to have some weaknesses. The hook-nosed man's guess is correct. There is indeed someone behind Xiang Guang. If Xiang Guang was really so smart, he would not have committed such an idiotic act as he did in the past. In the former courtyard, Qin De is standing with his hands behind his back, looking up at the sky. Given Xiang Guang's character, perhaps he'll directly attack me. Qin De gives a smile. In his heart, he does not think highly of Xiong Guang. Even though Xiong Guang is not an idiot, in terms of strategy, he is far from being an expert. On one side, Su Yuan says, "Your Highness, even if Xiong Guang sends people to assassinate you, it still won't prove whether or not the Shangguan clan is reliable." That Jian Su may have found out something. Because of what Jian Su has found out, Xiong Guang may also think that we're going to rebel and send people to assassinate you. Indeed. Even if there is an assassination attempt, it still won't prove that the Shangguan clan has betrayed them. Do we really need to figure out whether or not the Shangguan clan has betrayed us? Qin De says with a smile. Su Yuan also smiles. That's right. Do they really need to figure it out? The purpose of this negotiation is not to rope in the Shangguan clan. It will be enough if they can achieve the desired effect of the Qin clan by just releasing some smoke bombs. Su Yuan says with a nod. Indeed. This time we've only come here to release some smoke bombs. No matter whether or not the Shangguan clan has betrayed us, its fate has already been decided. We won't give the Shangguan clan a chance to stab us in the back during the war. No matter what, the Qin clan will not allow any mistakes. It will not give the Shangguan clan even the slightest chance. Based on my estimation, that Xiong Guang is going to send some goods and so on to the Black Water Bandits. Qin De says with a smile. Su Yuan also smiles. Reporting, there is a secret letter from the prince's mansion. A man walks into the courtyard and hands over a secret letter. Su Yuan receives it at once, then passes it on to Qin De. Is there anything else in the prince's mansion? Qin De opens the letter and reads it. His eyes immediately brighten. Ha ha, the heavens are helping me. This time you, has done a great service. I've always been very worried about those two Shangxian of the Xiong clan. Now that we have such a precious treasure, I'm also confident. Ha ha, that's really great. Qin De's excitement at the moment is simply indescribable. What's the big happy news? Su Yuan asks curiously on one side. Qin De immediately passes the secret letter to him. As soon as Su Yuan reads it, he is also very happy. He says at once, "Congratulations, Your Highness." "Congratulations, Your Highness." Qin De says with a laugh, "This time you, has done a great service. When we go back, we must reward him well." Su Yuan, quickly send someone. We're going back to the prince's mansion right away. Yes. Su Yuan immediately bows and says. Qin De cannot help bursting into laughter. He never thought that his third son Qin Yu would give him such a big surprise. At first he thought it was only a high Xian grade ore. Now it seems it is a treasure that can be used to refine holy weapons. Holy weapons. On one side, Su Yuan completely understands the importance of this in-rock flaming iron to Qin De. Its importance is no less than that of 200,000 troops. How can Qin De not be mad with excitement? Chapter 42. East Vanquishing Prince's Mansion has richly ornamented railings and jade walls, numerous pavilions and terraces, and numerous pavilions. It is indeed grand and imposing. Every bodyguard is holding a fierce tiger and scanning the surroundings. It can be seen how strict the security is. It is currently late at night. On the top floor of a pavilion, a man and an eagle are sitting. Although the bodyguards know about them, they turn a blind eye to them. I've been training hard for 3 days, but my strength hasn't increased much. Qin Yu sighs inwardly. Ever since Fenjiuzi started to refine weapons in the secret chamber, Qin Yu has been training hard alone. He knows that Fenjiuzi needs 3 to 5 days to refine weapons, so Qin Yu returned after training hard for 3 days outside. In these 3 days, Qin Yu has completely exhausted his own limits and trained as if his life depended on it. Even though Lu Xing's tears helped him recover, his body still hasn't made much progress. He is very clear that he has really reached the limit of the Hotian level. Xiao Hei, in internal energy training, from the Hotian level to the Xiantian level, there are various seniors' methods to learn from. But what method should I use to make a breakthrough in external energy? I don't have any senior's methods to learn from. Qin Yu says to Xiao He on one side. Although he is asking Xiao He, isn't it also Qin Yu asking himself? Xiao He gently pats Qin Yu with his huge wings. At the same time, he stares at Qin Yu. Qin Yu also feels that Xiao He is comforting him. Qin Yu smiles. This Xiao He also seems to know that he is in a bad mood. Suddenly Qin Yu is startled. Learn from, right. Qin Yu's eyes suddenly brighten. He suddenly pats his own head and says, Qin Yu, you're really an idiot. You can't learn from seniors in external energy, but you can learn from internal energy practitioners. How do you break through to the Xiantian level? Qin Yu immediately remembers what Lien Yen told him at that time. You can become a Ho-Tian expert as long as you have a way to train. But it's very difficult to become a Xiantian expert. In order to become a Xiantian level expert, there were two requirements. First, one had to reach the consummate level of the Ho-Tian realm. Secondly, you must have some understanding of the heavenly Tao. Qin Yu muttered to himself in a low voice, the consummate level of the acquired realm. Now, my external cultivation can be considered to have reached the consummate level of the acquired realm. As for the comprehension of the heavenly way, this is mysterious. Qin Yu didn't know what he meant by comprehending the heavenly Tao. This was something that couldn't be taught in words. If it could be taught, then Xiantian masters in the entire Qianlong continent wouldn't be so rare and precious. Qin Yu was pondering unceasingly in his heart. Comprehending the heavenly Tao, comprehending nature. Alright, let me feel what nature is. Suddenly, Qin Yu closed his eyes. His entire body and mind were in a state of emptiness. However, he didn't absorb the world's spirit energy. Qin Yu was in a state of emptiness, feeling the flow of the natural airflow. Quietly, time ticked by, but Qin Yu remained motionless. His body was motionless, and his heart was motionless. He didn't listen, didn't smell, didn't look. Qin Yu didn't notice that slowly, when Qin Yu was in a state of emptiness, the world's spirit energy consciously gathered towards Qin Yu's body. To be precise, it gathered towards Lu Xing's tear. Qin Yu had become the center of the whirlpool. The feeling was very wonderful. It was as if he was lying in warm water. Qin Yu could unexpectedly feel the world's spirit energy around him. That kind of intimate feeling made people reluctant to part with it. When Qin Yu forgot everything and was completely immersed in that wonderful warm feeling, at the same time, Lu Xing's tear unexpectedly sent out a warm energy. It was different from the clear flow of energy in the past. Instead, it was a warm energy. This energy was like a warm stream of water, slowly flowing into Qin Yu's mind. In the depths of his mind, there was a disc-like energy. That disc was surrounded by winding lightning. It was the most fundamental part of the human body, the soul. The soul would become stronger and stronger as a person trained. Qin Yu had undergone extreme training since he was a child, so his soul was much stronger than that of ordinary people. This energy was like a stream of water. In a short while, it had reached the depths of his mind. As soon as his soul came into contact with this energy, it seemed to become excited and began to devour it unceasingly. In just a short while, the disk's color had become deeper and it had become more substantial. Originally, the disk was just a bit illusory, but now it was giving off a clear seven-colored radiance. It had also become somewhat substantial. The lightning around the seven-colored disk had also become more powerful. Second brother, now that Xiang Guang has let Zhan Su take charge of the intelligence and investigation work of the 3 eastern region counties, it's a bit difficult for us to take action. Zhan Su has a special group of subordinates who are much more powerful in investigating. In particular, the further we go, the bigger our movements will be. It'll be very difficult to avoid his investigation. Big brother, don't worry. Father must have found a way to solve this problem when he went out this time. But this guy Zhan Su is really a bit tricky. He's sticking to us like a plaster. Qin Yu suddenly wakes up with a start. The moment he opens his eyes, the heaven and earth spiritual energy becomes the same as before. Qin Yu is also unable to sense it clearly. At the same time, Lu Xing's tears return to their usual appearance. That warm energy has also disappeared. However, Qin Yu himself has undergone a great change. Keen ears and keen eyes are used to describe a person who can hear clearly and see far away. However, Qin Yu can clearly hear his big brother and second brother's whispers from several tens of meters away. He can also clearly hear the sound of earthworms swimming in the distance. Moreover, his eyes can clearly see those earthworms wriggling bit by bit. If this is the case, can he still be described as having keen ears and keen eyes? Big brother, second brother, they. For the moment, Qin Yu does not pay attention to this. His mind is filled with the words of his big brother and second brother. Qin Yu knows his father's plan to destroy the Xiong clan and seize the Chu kingdom. Now it seems that the Xiong clan's intelligence chief, who is in charge of the 3 eastern region counties, is a difficult person to deal with. Qin Yu thinks of many things in an instant. Qin Yu immediately associates the words of his big brother and second brother. His father's departure, the relationship between the 4 big clans, that intelligence chief. Qin Yu lists everything clearly in his mind. Me. Qin Yu is immediately aghast. Just now, he unexpectedly thought of so many things. When did my brain become so flexible? Qin Yu finally discovers that he has undergone a great change. Looking around, Qin Yu is dumbstruck. What actually happened just now? How did I undergo such a great change? Only now does Qin Yu discover his astonishing change. It takes him a long time to calm down. He lowers his head and takes a look at the mark of Lu Xing's tear on his chest. Qin Yu shakes his head, then jumps down from the roof of the pavilion. Qin Yu's whole body flashes and turns into 2 afterimages. He lands on the ground. My perception of the wind is also several times clearer than before. Qin Yu feels that his body movements have become even more perfect. Moreover, it seems that my body's flexibility and so on are also much stronger than before. Perhaps others cannot judge, but Qin Yu knows how natural his movements were just now and how relaxed his body was when he completed them. It was as if he was taking a stroll in a courtyard. He feels as if he has undergone a fundamental change. Could it be that I've already touched the threshold between the peak of the Hotian realm and the Xiantian realm? Qin Yu thinks to himself. But he is not certain because he still has not sensed the birth of Xiantian true qi in his body. Suddenly, Qin Yu casts his gaze towards a distant courtyard. There is a secret room under the courtyard, which is none other than Qin Yu's secret room where Fenjiuzi refines weapons. Just now, Qin Yu unexpectedly heard the sound of the door of that secret room opening. Has the holy weapon been successfully refined? Qin Yu immediately walks towards the courtyard. Chapter 43. As soon as Qin Yu enters the courtyard, Fenjiuzi also comes out of the secret chamber. As soon as he comes out, he sees Qin Yu and cannot help being stupefied. He then says with a smile, "Xiao Yu, what a coincidence. I've just succeeded in forging and you've already come out." As soon as Qin Yu hears this, his heart is immediately filled with excitement. Holy weapons. This is a weapon that only Shangxian can possess. Just as Qin Yu is feeling excited, Qin Feng and Qin Zheng immediately come out of the room next door. Seeing Fenjiuzi, the 2 of them immediately say excitedly, "Uncle Feng, has Xiao Yu's weapon been successfully forged?" I've succeeded. Xiao Yu, these are the gloves to protect your knuckles and the short sword to imitate the Yuchong sword. Fenjiuzi reaches out his hand. A pair of gloves and a short sword immediately fly towards Qin Yu. The gloves are dark red and there are even faint flames on the surface. The short sword is dark black and the flames are completely condensed inside. Like a flying sword, the sword energy is swallowing and spitting out on the surface. Thank you, Uncle Feng. Qin Yu restrains the excitement in his heart and receives the gloves and the short sword. Fenjiuzi says with a sigh, "Xiao Yu, limited by my own cultivation, the level of the Samadhi true fire is not high enough. Therefore, I can only forge such a precious in-rock flaming iron into a middle-grade holy weapon. If it was forged by a Dongshu stage expert, it would even be possible to forge a high-grade holy weapon. Also, holy weapons are different from ordinary weapons. You only need to drip a drop of blood on them to absorb them into your body. They can appear in your hands at will. In-rock flaming iron is indeed a precious crafting crystal. Fenjiuzi himself is only at the middle stage of the Jindan stage, and his Samadhi true fire is still at the weakest level. Naturally, he cannot fully exert the power of in-rock flaming iron and can only forge middle-grade holy weapons. It's enough. Middle-grade holy weapons are enough for me. Qin knows what middle-grade holy weapons represent in the Shojin world. In the past, Fenjiuzi's own flying sword was only a low-grade holy weapon. What makes Qin most excited is that after dripping a drop of blood on it, he can absorb it into his body at will. Little Yu, why don't you forge a battle armor? Qin Zheng slightly frowned and said. Qin Feng also says, that piece of in-rock flaming iron is so big. Even if it's used to refine a battle armor, I reckon only 1/3 of it will be enough. With the armor, most of the vital points on the body could be protected. Why did you only refine a short sword and a boxing glove that only protects the joints? It's not even a boxing glove that completely covers the joints. How much in-stone flaming iron is there when these two are added together? In the hearts of the two brothers, Qin Yu, Qin Feng and Qin Zheng, this third brother of theirs was the most important person. Their mother had died early, and Qin Yu was unable to cultivate. The two brothers were naturally very concerned about him. Xiao Yu just wants to use less in-rock flaming iron and leave more for his father. Fenjiuzi spoke from the side. Qin Yu and Qin Zheng trembled, they were speechless. They could only stare at Qin Yu with reddened eyes. Qin Yu smiled and said, Big brother, second brother, there's no such thing. As you all know, when cultivating external techniques, once I have the protection of battle armor, my cultivation speed will naturally slow down. It's better not to have it. Besides, the boxing glove and the short sword are already enough. Self-deceiving. Both Qin Feng and Qin Zheng were outstanding figures. Naturally, they would not be deceived by Qin Yu's simple words. That was a holy weapon battle armor. If he did not want the protection of the battle armor, he could directly put it into his body. If he encountered danger that he could not avoid, he could use the protective battle armor. Both Qin Feng and Qin Zheng could see through Qin Yu's heart. Xiao Yu, you discovered it yourself. It belongs to you. No one will say how many holy weapons you want to refine. Even father won't say anything. Qin Zheng stared at Qin Yu and said. Qin Yu shook his head with a smile but said nothing. Holy weapons are really amazing. Qin Yu laughed and changed the topic. At the moment, he had already dripped blood on the boxing glove and the short sword. In just a moment, Qin Yu gave a thought and the boxing glove and the short sword completely disappeared from his hands. For a moment, Qin Feng and Qin Zheng's attention also shifted to the holy weapons. They're really amazing. If you don't have a weapon in your hand at the beginning and then a weapon appears out of nowhere, you can definitely kill the opponent by surprise. Qin Feng's eyes brightened. He immediately judged the advantages of the holy weapons. Qin Yu clearly felt that the boxing glove and the short sword were in the boundless space of his dantian. Although the dantian is only a small part of the body, the so-called a grain of sand is a world principle is the same. Just like the sun and moon in a pot, the boxing glove and the short sword are just like a dot in a corner of the dantian. Qin Yu suddenly clenched his fists. Boxing gloves suddenly appeared on his fists. The dark red gloves protected the knuckles of his fists. The best place for fists to attack is the knuckles. With the protection of the middle-grade holy weapon boxing glove, Qin Yu's fists could meet some godly weapons head-on without worrying about his hands being injured. What made Qin Yu feel most comfortable was that the gloves were like skin, completely unable to interfere with the flexibility of his knuckles. Whoosh! A black light flashed. Qin Yu's hands were still empty. Just a moment ago, a black short sword suddenly appeared in Qin Yu's hands and then disappeared again. Since they're made of in-rock flaming iron, the gloves will be called flaming gloves and the short sword will be called flaming sword. Qin Yu says smilingly. At the moment, Qin Yu's heart is full of excitement. As a martial artist, getting his favorite weapon is of course a very happy thing. Fenjiuzi says smilingly, Xiao Yu, that short sword has been engraved with a restrictive spell by me. That's why it's dark black. Alright, I'm going back to the secret room to continue forging. This time Fenjiuzi returned to the secret room to forge a flying sword for himself. With in-rock flaming iron, the original low-grade holy weapon flying sword can naturally be abandoned. Xiao Yu. Qin Yu and Qin Feng look at Qin Yu. Big brother, second brother. Seeing the look in their eyes, Qin Yu cannot help giving a forced smile in his heart. He immediately says, Xiao Hei, let's go back. The black eagle in the air immediately dives down. Qin Yu jumps on it with a tap of his feet, then leaves the mansion as if fleeing from a disaster. Qin Feng and Qin Zheng exchange a look, but they are helpless. We really don't care enough about Xiao Yu. Qin Feng says with a deep sigh. Qin Zheng is also speechless. As the big brother and second brother, as well as their father, they have always been busy with their own affairs and have never had time to care about their third brother. If Qin Yu had not found the in-rock flaming iron, such a big event, perhaps Qin Feng and Qin Zheng would still be busy with their own affairs. 3 days later, Fenjiuzi comes out of closed-door training with a face full of joy. He has finally forged his own flying sword, which is a middle-grade holy weapon. Even though there is only one grade difference between middle grade and low grade, the difference in power is several times greater. With this middle grade holy weapon, Fenjiuzi now has the guts to fight a late-stage Jin Dan expert. Of course, the premise is that the late-stage Jin Dan expert uses a low-grade holy weapon. Brother Feng, congratulations. Congratulations. Qin De says to Fenjiuzi with folded hands. He has just returned to the princely mansion last night. That dark red flying sword hovers above Fenjiuzi's head then fuses directly into his body. Haha, Your Highness, you have to thank Xiao Yu for this. Thanks to the in-rock flaming iron, I have this treasure. Fenjiuzi is obviously very happy. Qin De also nods. Fenjiuzi continues, Your Highness, haven't you always been worried about the 2 Shangxian in the Xiang clan's camp? One of them is at the middle stage of the Jindan stage and the other is at the late stage of the Jindan stage. With this in-rock flaming iron, I'll be able to deal with that bastard Wu De. As for Wu Xing, who is at the middle stage of the Jindan stage, I'll let several Xiantian stage experts use middle-grade holy weapons to besiege him. This will also work. Fenjiuzi says smilingly. No matter if it is a Jin Dan stage expert or a Yuanying stage expert, once the physical body is destroyed, the soul attached to the physical body will naturally disperse. Only after reaching the Dongshu stage can the soul attach to the Yuanying body and have an unlimited lifespan. However, even Dongshu, Kongming and Dujia stage experts can only practice as loose immortals if they lose their physical bodies. Therefore, the physical body is very important to Zayashinists. According to Fenjiuzi, if some Xiantian experts use middle-grade holy weapons to launch a sneak attack on Wu Xing at the middle stage of the Jindan stage and destroy his physical body, they will succeed. When Zayashinists use their elemental energy to protect their bodies, ordinary weapons cannot break through their defense, but middle-grade holy weapons can. The importance of the in-rock flaming iron obtained by Qin Yu is comparable to that of 200,000 troops. This time Xiao Yu has really done a great service. I've always been worried about the other side's 2 Shangxian but now I have some confidence. Qin De praises. Then he comes to his senses and says, Where's Xiao Yu? Why hasn't he come? As soon as Qin De came back, he sent people to find Qin Yu. Xiao Yu rode a black eagle back to Misty Villa once. Afterwards, I don't know where he ran off to. That black eagle flies extremely high and extremely fast so I basically couldn't find any trace of him. Lien Yen on one side immediately answers. Qin De nods his head. This time I must reward Xiao Yu well. He suddenly looks at Fenjiuzi and says, Brother Feng, how much in-rock flaming iron do you have left? Do you still have half? What Xiao Yu and I used together was only 1 out of 5. Fenjiuzi moves his hand and a stream of elemental energy flies directly towards the secret room. Afterwards, the door of the secret room makes a noise and the Inrock flaming iron flies out. From this, it can be seen that a Zionist's magical power is extraordinary. The Inrock flaming iron seems to have slightly decreased in height, but other than that, there is basically no change. What did Xiao Yu forge? Why did he use so little? Qinda asks doubtfully. According to Qinda's thinking, since this is the Inrock flaming iron that Qin Yu obtained himself, he probably had to use half of it. It would be very good if he could leave him half of it. However, Qinda finds it hard to believe that Qin Yu used so little. Xiao Yu only forged a short sword and a pair of gloves to protect his knuckles. He didn't even want to forge a protective armor. Qin Feng says with a sigh. Qin Zhang on one side also says with a sigh, but Xiao Yu unexpectedly said that he wanted to gain experience by himself and that it would be hard for him to make a breakthrough with the protection of the protective armor. All the people present are elites. They naturally know that the protective armor of the middle-grade holy weapon level can be integrated into the body. Moreover, since ancient times, the practitioners of external techniques have been the strongest. How can the defensive power of their bodies be comparable to that of the middle-grade holy weapon protective armor? Even if the practitioners of external techniques are the strongest, their defensive power is not as good as that of the middle-grade holy weapon protective armor. Then why is Qin Yu still like this? The answer is simply needless to say. Everything is just for his father, Qinda. Qinda is slightly startled. Xiao Yu. Qinda murmurs in a low voice, but then he can't say anything. Qinda still remembers that on the day of Qin Yu's coming-of-age ceremony at the age of 16, when he told Qin Yu the secret in the secret room, Qin Yu once strongly requested him to join the army and fight. However, he was rejected by Qinda. Qinda clearly remembers his son's lonely back when he left. From childhood to adulthood, this son has been constantly training hard. In fact, he has suffered much more than his big brother and second brother. God is so unfair. No matter how hard you are trained, he can't become a Xiantian expert even if he reaches the peak of his external techniques. According to Yunqing's estimation, Xiao Yu's current external techniques are probably only at the middle Hotian stage. With such a low level of cultivation, it'll be hard for him to even protect himself. Qinda secretly sighs. Outsiders can judge the level of an internal expert based on his internal energy. However, even Zionists cannot judge how strong an external expert's muscles are. After all, it is very difficult to judge the strength of a person's muscles. One can only judge by the weight of a person's hand. This is also the reason why nobody can see through Qin Yu's real strength. In Qinda's mind, his third son Qin Yu is nothing more than a child who has been training hard in external techniques but has failed to achieve anything in the end. When you find Yu, tell him to come find me. As for what to make from Inrock flaming iron, we'll discuss it tonight. After saying so, Qinda immediately turns around and leaves. Su Yuan, come with me. I still have something to discuss with you. No matter what, the most important thing is to annihilate the Xiong clan. Chapter 44. Late at night, Qin Yu sat cross-legged on the back of the Black Eagle. The Black Eagle was flying between the clouds. The cold wind whistled, stabbing Qin Yu's face like knives, but Qin Yu didn't move at all. His entire body was surrounded by a dense and frighteningly dense, smoke-like spiritual qi of heaven and earth. The spiritual qi of heaven and earth constantly permeated Qin Yu's body. According to the mental cultivation method of the ancestral dragon art, the spiritual qi of heaven and earth was transformed into internal energy and then permeated into every part of the body. Qin Yu's muscle fibers and even his cells were constantly transforming, undergoing changes that others couldn't understand. This kind of change had started since that day when he absorbed the warm current from Lu Xing's tears on the roof of the East Vanquishing Prince's residence. Suddenly, Qin Yu abruptly opened his eyes. Two rays of extremely frightening light shot out. This feeling is really wonderful. Qin Yu's eyes lit up. This was an unprecedented feeling. He had always pursued this kind of feeling when he practiced external martial arts, but now he felt it. My whole body is one. Flexibility, strength, agility, and so on, everything has merged into one. Everything is under my control. Control. This was the feeling Qin Yu had right now. No matter how good his body was, how strong his strength was, and how tough his bones were, it was useless if he didn't make good use of them. Qin Yu constantly trained his flexibility so that he could control any movement more easily. However, after that inexplicable transformation, the current Qin Yu's flexibility and toughness had reached a level that Qin Yu himself thought was perfect. His body was like one. When he punched, all the strength in his body could be gathered at one point. His control over his body had reached a temporary new level. Xiao Hei, go down. Qin Yu suddenly laughed. The black eagle immediately swooped down. Gradually, Qin Yu saw a huge city below. Qin Yu used another identity to buy a house in this city. Suddenly, the bones and muscles of his entire body start to move slowly. The muscles of his face also only move slightly. In just a short while, he has turned from a resolute and sunny 1.8 tall young man into a grave and stern man who is only 1.75 tall. Appearance-changing bones. Xiao Hei, go play by yourself. Don't expose my identity. Qin Yu smiled and jumped down from a height of several hundred meters. If it was in the past, Qin Yu would not be able to jump so high, but now he was very confident in his body. He closed his eyes and enjoyed the wind of rapid depravity. All of a sudden, Qin Yu's body swayed like a floating leaf, and the terrifying speed of his descent actually decreased abruptly. Qin Yu's body swayed again, and his speed actually increased again, sometimes extremely fast and sometimes slow. Qin Yu's descent didn't cause the slightest sound of wind. Qin Yu, whose eyes had been closed, suddenly opened his eyes. Swish! Like a sharp arrow, Qin Yu shot towards the ground in a completely straight line, producing a sharp whistling sound in the air. At this moment, Qin Yu did not use any movement technique. The moment Qin Yu landed on the ground, he was like a leopard cat, lightly supporting himself with one hand. The muscles of his feet and hands simply dissipated the force, and the diving pressure of his entire body was completely dissipated. Sure enough, I can control every muscle in my body to the smallest detail. Qin Yu looked at his palm with a face full of joy. If Zhao Yunqing was here, he would completely understand how powerful this move of Qin Yu's was. This was also Zhao Yunqing's ideal physical strength limit. Unfortunately, Zhao Yunqing had not been able to reach this realm for decades. Simple muscles of his feet and hands could dissipate such a diving force. This control of his muscles was simply at the limit. The feeling of Xiantian is really different. Qin Yu faintly smiled. Suddenly, Qin Yu slightly wrinkled his brows. He could clearly hear a thief running towards him from several hundred meters away. Qin Yu did not want to meet this person. Immediately, his figure flashed and disappeared from the night street. Xiantian realm. That day when Qin Yu left the prince's mansion, he guessed that his sudden change might be because he had stepped into the threshold of Xiantian, but he himself was not sure. Later, he remembered one thing that Xiantian experts could do: Xiantian embryonic breath. Qin Yu immediately rushed to the bottom of the lake to hold his breath. However, he did not know that he had actually just reached the threshold of Xiantian. That breath of air made Qin Yu's face turn red. In the end, Qin Yu completely relied on his willpower to persist. In the end, Qin Yu even felt dizzy at the bottom of the lake. He did not even know which direction was north, south, east, or west. In this confused and muddle-headed state, his entire body finally shook, and all the pores in his body seemed to open wide, absorbing the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. He, Qin Yu, had finally stepped into the threshold of Xiantian realm. Qin Yu did not know that although his soul was strong because he practiced extreme external martial arts, and then because he had inexplicably entered a state of emptiness, the mysterious tear of Lu Xing emitted a mysterious warm current of energy. His soul absorbed that energy and unexpectedly underwent a rapid transformation. Qin Yu's soul was very strong, even stronger than ordinary Xiantian experts. According to reason, if this continued, Qin Yu could enter the Xiantian realm after a period of time. However, Qin Yu was too anxious and forced himself to stay at the bottom of the lake. Fortunately, he succeeded in the end. In this way, Qin Yu became the first Xiantian external expert in the history of the Qianlong continent. How strong were Xiantian external experts? At least, the people of the Qianlong continent did not know, including Qin Yu's father, Qin Yu. Even now, Qin De, because of Zhao Yunqing's judgment, thought that Qin Yu was only an ordinary external martial artist who could lift at most 300 jin with one hand. External experts relied on their muscle strength. Even Zayashinists were unable to judge how strong the opponent's muscle strength was in the end, especially Qin Yu. His muscles absorbed internal energy and also absorbed the mysterious clear current of Lu Xing's tear. His strength was completely restrained. Just from appearance, it could only be said that Qin Yu gave people a sense of strength like a leopard. Qin Yu was standing outside a mansion. At this moment, he was wearing a silver mask. Bang! 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 After knocking on the door several times, a moment later, a person opened the door. Seeing Qin Yu wearing a silver mask, he immediately stepped aside and let Qin Yu enter. This mansion was a relatively important branch of the #1 assassin group, Skynet. Very strong, 5 Xiantian experts and many Hotian experts. As soon as Qin Yu entered, he sensed some experts in the mansion. Since his soul had absorbed that mysterious power in the prince's mansion, Qin Yu's perception had become much stronger than before. Within a range of several hundred meters, no one could escape from Qin Yu's perception, unless the opponent's perception surpassed his. Qin Yu did not know that this kind of magical perception was the soul sense that only Zayashinists had. This was one of the several important branches of the Skynet. However, from ancient times until now, over 1,000 years, no one knew where the headquarters of the Skynet was. At the moment, this important branch alone had 5 Xiantian experts. Qin Yu could already imagine how powerful the Skynet was. While Qin Yu was shocked by the strength of the Skynet, he had already entered the small courtyard where missions were accepted. In the middle of the courtyard, there was a gorgeous woman. Silver Card Assassin, this is the list of missions. Which one do you want to accept? The gorgeous woman's voice was very cold. She put a list of missions in front of Qin Yu. Qin Yu immediately opened the list. As a silver card assassin, he could accept any gold card mission. Once he succeeded, he would become a gold card assassin. Of course, generally, silver card assassins would not risk their lives. The Skynet had determined that gold card missions could only be completed by Xiantian experts. Today, Qin Yu directly opened the gold card mission section. There were not many gold card missions, only 13 of them. Among them, only 5 were in the Chu Kingdom, and only 1 was in the 3 eastern region counties, Jiangsu. Qin Yu raised his eyebrows. Qin Yu immediately remembered the conversation he overheard between his big brother and second brother that day. Obviously, this Jiangsu was the chief of the Xiang imperial clan's investigation in the 3 eastern region counties. However, there was very little information about Jiangsu in this mission. After reading the information about Jiangsu, Qin Yu slightly frowned. This mission was really very difficult. Logically speaking, as he had just reached the Xiantian realm, he should take on a simple mission first. However, after thinking for a while, Qin Yu said coldly, the 12th gold card mission. As soon as the gorgeous woman heard this, her eyes brightened. She then said with a smile, "Please wait a moment. Sorry, I don't have the information about Jiangsu's whereabouts." Almost as soon as the gorgeous woman finished speaking, an old man suddenly appeared. He took a look at Qin Yu, then put a letter in front of Qin Yu. These are some of the places where Jiangsu will be in the next few days. Tisk tisk. Challenging a gold card mission. Unfortunately, this mission is very difficult. A gold card assassin has already died. Do you want to give it up? The old man stared at Qin Yu and said. Qin Yu took the secret letter and gave the old man a cold look. Then he immediately turned around and left. The gorgeous woman took out a black book on which there were two characters, Lu Xing. November 8th, at 2:10 p.m., assassin Lu Xing received a gold card mission, Kill Zhen Su. A line of beautiful regular script appeared on a brand new page. Chapter 45. In a gloomy room in an old house, there is only a single candle on a desk. The dim light of the candle illuminates half of the face of the man sitting in front of the desk. As the flame of the candle flickers, the shape of the man's face also becomes indistinct. Only his eyes, which emit a dense cold light, are so eye-catching and heart-shaking. At the moment, this pair of eyes is staring at the desk in front of him. His hand is holding a brush and writing non-stop. After a while, he puts down the brush. Suddenly, the flame of the candle lights up, illuminating this man's clear face, handsome but pale. At first glance, even though this man is already 40 or 50 years old, he still gives people the impression that he is handsome but sickly. However, when coupled with his eyes, his entire temperament has changed. This man is none other than Zhen Su, an absolute genius of the Xiong Imperial Clan's intelligence department. Even the head of the intelligence department will feel his heart tremble when he sees him. At the same time, he is also the person Xiong Guang admires the most. Zhen Su then takes out a square jade from his bosom. The jade radiates a soft multicolored light. There seems to be some imprints on the surface of the square jade. Zhen Su looks carefully at those imprints and slightly shakes his head, saying, Trans-Heaven Diagram. This is the first Trans-Heaven Diagram. Unfortunately, I've studied it for half a year but I haven't made any progress. I'd better give it to His Majesty. Zhen Su takes an iron box from the side of the desk. At the same time, he puts the secret letter and the square jade into it. He then closes the iron box and locks it with a key. Bang! 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 Suddenly, Zhen Su continuously taps the iron box several times. A series of gotcha sounds are heard. Afterwards, the keyhole disappears. It works in the same way as the Qin clan's iron box for storing secret books. If other people don't know how to open it, it will be useless. At the moment, outside the house, in the middle of the courtyard of this old house, a man wearing a silver mask is standing. Qin Yu's eyes are closed. Trans-Heaven Diagram. Qin Yu's heart skipped a beat. His miraculous perception allowed him to clearly sense everything within a dozen meters of the house, including the locations of the iron boxes that Qin Yu had tapped on. Qin Yu had memorized all of it in his mind. Thanks to Lu Xing's tears, Qin Yu's soul was as strong as a self-cultivator's. The strength of his soul led to Qin Yu's magical perception, which was the self-cultivator's spiritual sense. As his soul grew stronger, the range of his spiritual sense would also increase. Qin Yu's movements were completely silent. At this moment, he held his breath. For a moment, Zhen Su didn't know that Qin Yu was outside. Little brother, immediately send the iron box into the palace. It must be done quickly. This key must be hidden well. This is the Trans-Heaven Diagram. We can't be careless, Zhen Su suddenly said. A man who had been hiding in a dark corner walked out. This man gave off the feeling of a teenager. However, Zhen Su knew that this young man was over 40 years old and had been following him for more than 20 years. Zhen Su had two generals under his command, Nailan Feng and Nailan Dan. The Nailan siblings are very strange. Even though they are already more than 40 years old, they still look like teenagers. According to their guess, perhaps this has something to do with a kind of spiritual fruit they ate when they were young. The Nailan siblings only listen to Zhen Su's orders and don't even take Emperor Xiong Guang seriously. Big brother, don't worry. I'll put this key together with my own key. Nailan Feng takes out a bunch of keys, then inserts the key into the iron box. Nailan Feng suddenly takes out another key from the bunch of keys, then puts it in front of his chest, seemingly very solemnly. Little brother, you're still the same. Zhen Su says with a smile. Nailan Feng raises his eyebrows and says, Big brother, it's always better to be prepared. Even if someone kills me, he'll definitely think it's the key in front of my chest. He'll never think that the real key is in the bunch of keys. Moreover, I still have this bunch of keys with my subordinates. Feng, you always think you're smart. A cold voice rises. A grim woman also walks out from a dark corner of the room. She licks her palm. In her palm is a heart. Outside the room, Qin Yu's body suddenly shakes. His eyes cannot help flashing with a hint of fierceness. With his holy sense, Qin Yu can clearly see the thing in the woman's palm. It's a very small heart. It should not be an adult's. Nailan Feng says with a slight frown, Dan, can you change your habit? Even if you eat a baby's heart, don't do it in front of us, okay? I've told you for so many years, but it's still useless. You know it's useless, but you still say it. Moreover, you've been saying it for so many years. For more than 20 years, it seems you haven't stopped. Feng, you're really very boring. Nailan Dan says coldly. Friend, why have you come to my place in the middle of the night? Zhan Su suddenly says indifferently. His clear voice spreads through the whole house. However, the strange thing is that all the servants in the house seem to be asleep. None of them has woken up. Qin Yu gives a faint smile. Just now, because his holy sense discovered the baby's heart in the woman's palm, he was shocked and his breathing became chaotic. He was immediately discovered by Zhan Su. What's the matter? I'm a Heaven's Net killer. What do you think I'm here for? Qin Yu says indifferently. When Qin Yu took on the assassination missions, he had never assassinated his opponents in the dark. He had always killed his opponents openly. This time was no exception. Although Qin Yu found that Nailan Feng and Nailan Dan are also Xiantian masters. Bang! The door suddenly opens. A black light soars into the sky and then falls in the middle of the courtyard. It's a young man in black. At the same time, another black light soars into the sky and then falls beside the young man in black. It's a young girl in black. Then, a handsome middle-aged man in white with a pale complexion walks out slowly. At first glance, he looks very sick and weak. But with his cold eyes, he is like a lone wolf, chilling people's heart. Silver Card Killer? Zhan Su frowns slightly and looks at Qin Yu. To be exact, I'm Silver Card Killer Lu Xing, Qin Yu says indifferently. Qin Yu has never cared about telling others his killer's name. After all, to kill them, he must let them know who killed them, right? Lu Xing? Zhan Su slightly raises the corners of his mouth. You dared to come and kill me. Just now, you were in the courtyard for so long without being discovered by me. You should be a Xiantian master. But it's strange that I can't see through you. Zhan Su is slightly surprised. Qin Yu glances at the Nailan siblings and then at Zhan Su, saying, I'm also very surprised. It's already very amazing for a small intelligence chief of the 3 eastern region counties to be a Xiantian master. But he also has 2 Xiantian masters as his subordinates. There are no more than 100 Xiantian masters in the entire Chu kingdom. You have 3. You talk a lot. Nailan Dan suddenly says, killers shouldn't talk too much. Assassins shouldn't kill people in broad daylight, right? Miss who likes to eat baby's heart. Qin Yu says with a smile. Oh, by the way, your actual age should be older than a Mrs. age. Or maybe I should call you Aunt. Nailan Dan's face suddenly changes color. She hates it when people say her real age. Qin Yu glances at the open door of the room. He knows that there is an iron box with the Trans-Heaven diagram on the desk in that room. Of course, in order to get the Trans-Heaven diagram, Qin Yu must kill the 3 people in front of him. Moreover, all 3 of them are Xiantian masters. Nailan Dan glances at Zhan Su. Zhan Su slightly nods. Killer Lu Xing, right? Unfortunately, Lu Xing's life is always very short. Nailan Dan says with a sneer. Then her figure moves. Her whole body is like a cold wind, completely engulfing Qin Yu's surroundings. For a moment, there are several afterimages around Qin Yu. This is the first time that Qin Yu has a life and death battle with a Xiantian master, and there are 2 Xiantian masters watching the fight on the side. you're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.